Hello and welcome to the Blackdog podcast, episode number 309.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. Yeah, thank you. I'm Lee.
I'm Darren.
I'm Jim.
I am Elton.
And this week we will be talking about how our week has been and generally getting some stuff off our chests as per usual. And then we will be going on to the now changed from your previously advertised episode of Battleships has now been changed to the Near Dark review. Near Dark being the Catherine Bigelow movie starring the recently passed Bill Paxton. And so we will be getting on with that and going finger-licking good and all those kind of things and shit heaven and all those kind of lovely, lovely, lovely things. But first, we will be seeing how everyone's week's been. And so I will start with randomly picking from the list. Jim.
Yes. What have I done this week? Oh, I went to see Logan.
And?
I really liked it, actually. I'm not a huge fan of the previous Wolverine films. What's that first one? Wolverine Oranges. Yeah, didn't rate that.
Mind the Oranges, Wolverine.
And Wolverine, the. Yeah, Wolverine went to Japan. And what deal you got? Okay, right,
yeah.
Moving on. So, kind of, I've not really missed him in subsequent X-personage films. I'm not against Hugh Jackman, but it's kind of, this was kind of like, oh yes, you fuckers. This is what I wanted to see. Claws through the head.
Nice.
Where have you been the last 5 films, you bastards? Obviously what you do with Wolverine on film.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, at last. Oh, it's his last one. Bollocks. But what I really liked about it was it kind of, it was a real kind of step away. I know kind of now the X-Men continuity map is kind of, you get a bowl of spaghetti and hurl it against the wall. That's how the timelines work. But, you know, if you've not seen it, you don't have to worry about any of that shit. Do you know there's Wolverine? Yes. Do you know Professor X? Yes. Do you know there are X-Men? Yes. Done. That's all you need.
Lovely.
Which is good. And I thought it was just a really intriguing film. I would say, I'd agree with quite a few people who say it probably is a little over long.
Is it too long by half an hour?
I wouldn't go quite half an hour, but maybe you could shave 15 minutes out of there, I think.
Oh,
Is it too long by fuck you? Is that how long it is? Yeah?
Is it? So it's half a Barnard increment.
in our new official sliding scale.
Yeah.
How many Barnards is it? Ooh,
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
How many Barnard bladders is it? It's like a totalizer on Blue Peter, isn't it?
Yeah, one Barnard bladder is exactly half an hour, whereas half a Barnard bladder is 15
We
minutes.
need a graphic for this to stick on the film posters.
One Barnard bladder will buy 4 children water for a day.
A little totalizer. But yes, but the thing is, I found, because of the kind of film it is, I mean, as other people have said, it is kind of like a Western. I mean, if you're looking for a film, it's close to True Grit.
Interesting.
Around nearer than any of the X-Men films.
Well, that's already a start. That's a real pickup.
I mean, it's a road movie. It's that old thing of the grizzled old fighter getting drawn into one last job. And I think it's really it's different. It's interesting. Jackman gets to do some proper acting as Wolverine.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart puts in a blinding performance.
Yeah.
Which I actually felt it was a bit dusty in the cinema at one stage, actually.
Oh, no.
Just for one little speech he makes. It's absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
and good new sort of young actress as Laura. I really enjoyed it. As I say, as it is kind of a Western, it's sort of being overlong is almost part of the form.
Yeah,
The
as
same
we
way,
found
if you're
out.
doing a prog rock album and it's not a double album, you're doing it wrong. In the same way for Western, it should be long and drawn out.
Yeah, if
Almost.
you haven't got a 55-minute Hammond organ solo, then it's just not trying hard enough, is it?
No, you're just not. You're not getting the form right. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a real complete surprise. I said, "Oh yes, another Wolverine film. Fool me once, fool me twice."
Yeah.
But my brother-in-law rang up and said, "Do you want to see Logan tonight? A friend can get us in for £3." I said, "What, each?" He said, "No, for all of us." I said, "How do you manage that?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, count me in."
Did you notice that when you left, you had a satchel and it was full of stuff that they told you not to open?
Well, my house was full of machine parts, and when I came back, and a man came and picked them up. So there you go. Apparently.
Nice.
But yes, I would recommend that. And so even if you're not like a superhero movie person, I would recommend seeing this one. You don't need to worry about knowing anything about the others, other than as long as you know just the basics of Professor X and Wolverine. If you know who they are, you'll be fine.
Lovely. I'm going to see it on Thursday, so I'm really looking forward to it, I have to say. Yeah. Cool. Anything else, sir?
I'll leave it at that, I think.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. A thumbs up from your corner for Logan, and I'm sure we'll discuss it more next week when I'm sure the rest of us will have seen it. Or at least...
Well, I'm hoping to see it this week.
Yeah, me too. Cool. Okay, well then let's move on to you, Elton. How was your week, sir?
Not too bad, actually. I got around to watching Beware the Slender Man from HBO.
Really? Was it filmed in Welling?
No, no, not this one. No, this is about the story of the three girls. I think they're 11 to 12 years old, and two of them tricked their friend into going into the woods where they stabbed her.
Yeah,
but she survived. I think it happened maybe at least 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the story of that and the documentary behind it, and yeah, it's well worth a watch. I hate to say it, but maybe a little bit too long.
By how much? How many Barnards are we talking here?
Fuckers are going to pay for this.
Well,
it's already a T-shirt designed out. Don't worry, it'll be on Redbubble soon.
Are you gonna? Can we get a T-shirt with like different names of the films and like the different bladder ratings?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Lord of the Rings is at least 20
It's
Barnards.
right out.
Yeah,
That's a trip to the ICU. That is.
Yeah.
That's a stoma, isn't it?
With some free shares in Tenor Man as well.
Yeah, you can only watch it. You can only watch it if you're in your own private swimming pool.
Yeah, don't bother filling it up.
Heavily
We'll sort that out later.
Just don't put the purple dye in.
Yeah, heavily chlorinated.
Anyway, yeah, it's full of wispy shots and moody shots, as you would expect from HBO. But it's not a documentary about Slender Man. It does go into the lore behind Slender Man, where it's from and what it does and what's going on. But it's more, I don't know, it's more a documentary about mental health, responsibility, parenting, modern society, rather than the creepypasta aspect.
All right.
So looking at it from a parent's point of view, with kids, my kids both have iPads,
Right.
and looking at it from that, just pass the iPad and let them play on it, and then, are you checking on them? Well, I'm checking on them as much as I can. Yeah, but are you checking on it? And it's going into that, how we're getting so blasé with that sort of equipment. And it is, when you realise they're telling you that, it's, okay, maybe I should be checking a little bit more than what I am at the moment. So,
Your kids are holding a ticking time bomb.
yeah, they're all going to turn into super Nazis and take over aeroplanes and hijack them. Fuck it up. But it's eye-opening, shall I say.
Right.
It's worth the watch. Only one watch, but worth the watch. It's not a series. It's just a hour and 50 minutes documentary. So I'd say worth a watch anyway, at least.
So that was on Netflix, yeah?
No, it's on Sky Atlantic, HBO, and other torrent places.
Right, okay.
But it's from HBO documentary, so it's well worth it.
Yeah.
That being said, I did go to the House of Torrent this week.
Did you? Do you really want to admit that?
Let this be a warning to people. You should not do this. It's very naughty, and we do not condone it whatsoever, and we never partake of it, and we will not be partaking of it in the future.
No.
That being said, I tried to watch the film Split.
Okay.
Which is the M. Night Shyamalan, what's his name? Mr. X.
Yeah.
James McAvoy.
James McAvoy, yes.
Yes, and it's appealed to me, and I haven't really had time to get out the house to go see it at the cinema. So I thought, okay, maybe just try this, and found it, started watching it, and it was, I was sat there going, is this it?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like it at all. And it was about people bowling, and I thought, okay, Split could be from that.
Mm.
And it carried on, and these girls are going up to these guys and talking to these, hi, how are you? Oh, yes, oh, it's so funny. And it was more of a comedy. I thought, well, he could be taking a turn, and maybe this will turn up later in the film.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
I've got a very bad feeling about this.
Do they all start pooing in each other's mouths?
No. It didn't go that bad. Don't worry. What I ended up watching was Split from 2016, but it's a romantic comedy.
Oh, thank God for that. I thought you were going to tell us it's tentacle porn or something.
Every single person in the audience, including the other three hosts, have all just breathed a massive sigh of relief.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't like that. It just turned out to be a crap comedy, and I wasted 45 minutes waiting for something to happen. I thought this was going to be M. Night Shyamalan. He shows you 20 minutes of build-up, and then you'll never see that related build-up until the final 10 minutes. And there I am going, okay, I can deal with this. It's all right. 45 minutes later, fuck off. I've had enough bollocks to this, and I turned it off.
Right.
So, yeah, there you go. I IMDb'd it. Yeah, Split, 2016, 3.5 rating at the moment.
So we're putting that on the docket. So we're putting that on the docket then.
It's not. No, it wouldn't even work.
No?
It'd just be us four going.
Oh
yeah,
dear.
it's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh God.
Terrible. Yeah. Nothing to pick in it whatsoever.
Right.
It was just 45 minutes of my life.
You'll
wasted.
never get back. Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. All right then. Well, yeah. There you go, kids. Don't do torrenting. You don't know what.
Download a car, would you?
Would if I could get it down the fucking pipe.
Too right, yeah. But you wouldn't download this television, would you?
Again, I refer you to my first point. If it was Ultra HD and I could download the bastard, I would do that. Anyway, right, okay. Well then, over to you, Mr. Barnard. How's your week been, sir?
How's my week been? Now there's a question. So we'll jump to Friday. I mean, we'll talk about Friday a little bit more when we get to your section, because this is something we both did together, which was the drink up at the Barrowboy and Banker on the Friday night, which was very good, very enjoyable evening, and we'll explain the 67p rub as well. Yeah, so very enjoyable with the usual suspects all turning up.
Yep.
Good night was had by all. And then on Saturday, went and saw my brother David perform with his band at one of the local pubs here. Surprisingly wide vocal range that my brother's got. I didn't realise he could actually go that high. At one point when he came off of stage, I said, look, I've got a spanner in my bag if you want to just release your bollocks from inside your body. Because it did sound like it. I thought he's going to get a new pair of earrings in a minute. It's just going to come out of his fucking eardrums. But no, very enjoyable, very loud. Just a really good set by him and the other guys. So good evening there. And then on Sunday, after I'd finished doing overtime, I went to what is called GeekCon in Croydon, which is a very, very small sort of convention that took place in the Ship in Croydon. So had a few people from television that have been on Doctor Who doing talks there and stuff like that. A few people in costume, people selling stuff. And it was generally just a really good atmosphere, really enjoyable. Got to make a few new friends. And at the end of the evening, after we'd done the geek quiz, which finished off the entire event, sat there chatting at the table with a few of them. In fact, two of them were there, Pete and Emma Jones, who are listeners as well as friends of mine. So they did come to the shindig this year as well. So, yeah, sat there talking to them, and it was so enjoyable. It's that sort of thing where you go, oh, you know what, I'll get the next train. I'll get the next train.
Yeah.
You know what, I think I can squeeze. I think I can wait till the next train. And it got later and later and later till it got to about 11:45, something like that, right? So came out of the pub, said goodbye to everybody. And then I made my way over to East Croydon Station. Yeah. And this is where my epic journey all the way home begins. I don't know if you want to start playing the music now, Lee. There we go. Setting the scene just wonderfully. So I get into East Croydon Station and I notice that there is a train going to Victoria. And I think, right, okay, get on that. I noticed that one of the stations along the way is Clapham Junction. So I think to myself, right, I'll get off at Clapham Junction and I'll get a connection to Waterloo, get the train for Waterloo back home, or get a bus or a cab or something from there. So I get on the train, we get into Clapham Junction, I walk over to where all the announcement boards are, and there's not a single train going to Waterloo.
Oh dear.
And I think, fuck. So I go off and I find a guard, right? I say to him, so when's the next Waterloo one coming? He says, oh no, you've missed the last one, mate. And I'm looking at the board, and all there is now is like Victoria trains or East Croydon trains. Yeah. Right, so I'm either going back to where I began or I'm going to Victoria, which I don't really want to do. No. But then he says to me, well, look, you can catch a bus outside, number 77, goes to Waterloo. So I think, all right, fine, I'll go for that. I walk out there. I go looking for a 77 bus stop. Do you think I can find a 77 bus stop anywhere? No, there's none. The bloke's lied to me. I go back in there, and he's disappeared. He's gone. He's vanished.
Was there just a puff of smoke and you turned around and he was gone?
I'm pretty sure he's a malevolent spirit that actually hangs around Clapham Junction around about that time of night, just giving people bus timetable information.
Slight smell of sulphur as well.
Exactly. So I'm like, oh, fuck it. All right, well, fine. I'll wait for a Victoria train. I look at the timetable. It's half an hour away. So I'm like, fine, I'll go on the platform, I'll wait there. When I'm going down, I think, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to install Uber. I'm going to get an Uber home. Okay. So I pull out my phone, and there's like 5% battery power left on my phone. So I fire up the 3G, and I start downloading the Uber app, right? And it's taking its sweet time about it. And just as it finishes downloading, the fucking battery carks out. Right? So I've got no fucking communication device. I'm stood there looking at my sad reflection in the black screen of nothingness, right? Which is my fucking soul at that time of night, right? It is now, let's see, what time is it? It's now gone 1 o'clock, okay? It's now gone 1 o'clock and I'm still having to wait for this train, which is just about half an hour away. So I'm walking up down the station muttering to myself, fucking bastard, fucking wank shit bollocks.
Yep.
And I'm like that for like 20 minutes. Train pulls in, I get on it, I go to Victoria. I get off of Victoria and I go to the little hut just outside Victoria Station where they do all the bus stuff.
Yeah.
And I talk to the guy there and I say, have you got any buses going back to either Welling or Lewisham? So I think I'll get off at Lewisham, get a cab, right?
Yep.
You can see the pattern forming with the cab thing here.
Yeah,
right?
I can see that.
Exactly. So the guy explains to me, well, look, you can either go round the corner to where the 36 stops, and that will take you into Lewisham, or you can go up the road, catch a number 11, that will take you to Trafalgar Square, and there you can catch an N89. Thinking, fine, whatever, I'll go for the Lewisham one. It's only just over there. I go around the corner, find the bus stop. There's actually a bus stop that exists. This wasn't another malevolent spirit that lives in a box. Okay, I'm stood there. I see 36 come up on the announcement thing on there. Right, it's one bus, just 136, nothing else around it. So I'm thinking, well, maybe this is the last bus.
Yeah.
I'm stood there waiting for it. 15 minutes go by. I'm checking the time up, and it's only after 15 minutes that I actually take notice of what's written next to the numbers 36. And it says New Cross Gate.
Oh, no.
Which is, as anybody knows that area will know, that's about 2 miles away from Lewisham Town Centre through what is known as the Cursed Earth. Okay? And I'm thinking to myself, well, fuck walking that for a game of soldiers. Right, okay. I'm thinking, shit, go for it. So I run across the road, run up to where the number 11 bus stop is, get there, and it's 8 minutes away.
Yep.
20 minutes later, the bus turns up, right? It's being driven by the world's slowest bus driver. Okay? I get on, stand there, it drives off, and he's pootling away, and I'm, again, mumbling under my breath. We finally get to Trafalgar Square, right? We get to just before we go round Trafalgar Square to get to where the N89s are. And as we pull up, a number N89 goes flying past the bus, goes round Trafalgar Square, goes to the bus stop that I can see 100 yards away, picks up people and fucks off. I'm watching this, I can't do anything. I'm trapped in a box. Right?
In a glass case of emotion.
In a glass case of emotion and frustration. So the bus pulls round, I get off, and it's like, oh God, I don't know how long I'm going to have to wait for this one. I can't check my phone because the battery's run down, so I can't even look at a bus app, right? So I'm now it's all in the lap of the gods. Anyway, as I'm standing there at this bus stop, I notice that there's a phone box. Standing outside this phone box, there are 3 people. 1 woman, 2 blokes, right? They've just come back from a party or something. So I walk past them, I get into the phone box, and just as I pick up the handset, right, you've got to understand also, my sense of humour arrived home a lot sooner than I did, right? So I'm without my sense of humour now.
Yeah.
Right, completely dead. I pick up the phone. As I'm about to speak, suddenly one of the blokes has put his face through the window. I mean, there wasn't a pane of glass there, so don't worry. He's put his face through the actual empty frame. And he's going, all right, how you doing? You all right? And I look at him as if to say, do you want to eat this phone? So I turn away from him, and as I do that, suddenly there's a thump against the side of the phone box. And his mate cries out, oh God, are you all right?
Yeah.
Stupid fucker's cut his face open. Right?
Right.
On frame. And I'm thinking, if nothing else goes right tonight, that's your karmic payback. Thank you very much indeed. So I leave him to bleed on the pavement, right? And I turn back to the phone, and that's when I notice it says, insert a credit card. It's not accepting any coinage. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to put my card in there because knowing my luck, it will charge me 300 quid for a fucking 2-minute conversation with a cab company. So I put the phone down, I get out, and I stand there waiting for the bus. All the time it is getting colder and colder, and I'm starting to freeze. Bus comes along, opens its doors. I'm thinking to myself, right, okay, they're obviously changing up, doing something, because I don't think this is the N89. There was no number on the front of it. And the bus driver goes, oh, yeah, this is the N89. Do you all want to get on? This is another 3 minutes of me standing there freezing my knockers off, right? In Trafalgar Square. So I get on the bus, do my Oyster card, sit down, put my headphones on, sit there thinking, right, we've just got to do this one part of the journey, get back home, we'll get a taxi back from Welling High Street, and that will be the end of it. We can get in, right? It is now gone 2 o'clock, okay? In fact, it's coming up to 2:23 in the morning, right? I'm sat there the bus pulls away. Now, you know how when you get on a bus, sometimes you get the nutter sitting next to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't get the nutter sitting next to me. I had him driving the fucking bus, right? Because I'm sitting there minding my own business, and all of a sudden, as the bus is driving along, the bus driver is actually turning around, looking at me, gesturing towards me as the bus is driving along.
Yeah.
Right? I'm thinking to myself, oh, what is it? Is it my Oyster card that's fucked up? So I take my earphones out and I go, what's up? And he doesn't actually say anything about Oyster cards fucking up. He starts telling me about this bloke who left his wallet on the bus earlier. And I'm like, the fuck is this? What have I wandered into? Have I really gone through the fucking looking glass?
Yep. You are.
So I managed to pull myself away from him. In here, something distracts him. Like, I don't know. There's traffic lights or something.
Shiny paper.
Shiny paper. I sit down, put my headphones on, look out the window. So by now, no sense of humour. I'm worn out. It's getting on to 3 o'clock in the morning by the time we get back to Welling, and it's like hallelujah. I'm back home. I can now get me cab, and this is where the punchline for this whole joke of a fucking journey gets delivered. I walk round the corner to the cab office. I press the button for the intercom on the actual door, and the bloke says, cab service. And I say, can I have a cab, please, to go back to, my road? And he goes, oh, we haven't got any cabs.
What?
And I dropped to my knees. I'm like, I'm going to book time in the bell tower with the high-powered sniper rifle.
No,
and
no.
I started laughing. I just started laughing. Then I got up and I just walked home. Another half an hour. I'm freezing. I've sworn every swear word in the book about 1,000 times on this journey back while laughing.
Yep.
Okay, good job there were no people around.
Yeah.
I get in.
Yeah.
Get in at 3:30 in the morning. By the time I've sorted stuff out, I get into bed at 4:45, only to get up again at 5 a.m. Thank you very much, and fucking good night.
And other than that, how was your day?
Oh, it was fucking wonderful. It was. So there you go.
Lovely.
That was my epic journey, or how not to get from
A to
Croydon
B.
to Welling.
Lovely. I think we should just play out the music.
Oh, that was well timed.
Anyway, okay. Well, there you go. Well, that's that. I think we've all been on the journey with you, Dal. I think we've all gone with you on that one.
Oh, I feel worn out now.
Well,
I'm to bed. Good night.
yeah, that's it. You got it off your chest. You're off now. Ta-da. Okay. My week has been well, yeah, we had the drink up with Martin and another Martin and Jen and what's it? And Leslie Gold and Sarah, and that was good. Except the fact that the Barraboy and Banker pub appears to want to give you the full recreation of the commuter experience.
Yeah, and doesn't let you out the pub until 3:30, and then tells you that there are no cabs.
Exactly. And the long and the short of it was we tried to find a way of sitting down at a table which was only to have food. We had food. And then basically we got a bill, which was split amongst all of us.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of the bill was a discretionary service charge.
Wasn't there just?
Yeah, discretionary service charge. Now, bear in mind, obviously, there were, 2, 4, 6, I'm doing it in my head, about nine of us?
Yeah.
And long and the short of it was the bill sort of came to about 100 and something quid. And then all of a sudden it's like, right, okay. And at the bottom, discretionary charge, £21. And it's like, really? Discretionary charge? Okay, well, let's just call it a tip and we'll throw whatever change we've got from various £10 notes going in and what have you. And the lady decided, the waitress decided we were 67p short on the discretionary charge. And it's like, you do know that's a discretionary charge. And she goes, no, it's a service charge.
Yeah, it's something that we don't have to actually pay.
Yeah. And it was like, so hold on. So a bill that we don't have to pay, a bill we don't actually have to pay, and you want to stiff us for another 67p on a £21 service charge. And yeah, she did. So it was a massive scramble of, 67p while Jem went to the toilet. So we worked out that she needed to take 67p's worth of wipes from the toilet downstairs. So there was that. So that'll explain the 67p wipe thing that people might have seen on the on Facebook. But otherwise, it was a nice time had by all. And then work. Yep, work was kind of interesting on Monday. Basically, on Friday night, got told that one of the partners was bringing a client in, and he just sent out this email going, "Everyone ready for Monday?" And it's like, what? What for Monday? Doing what for Monday? With whom for Monday? Oh, we got a client coming in. I'm sure you'll be able to show him some stuff. And it's like, what? Huh? What? You've not explained any of it. And so I send out this email, sort of politely saying, "I'm sorry, but you've sent out an email inviting me to a meeting, and you've actually not told me anything about what this meeting's about, who's coming, what you need doing, whatever." And then it suddenly becomes like, oh, well, it's presentation and showing off graphics and showing off our technical skills and all this kind of thing. And it's like, oh, great. And we've got what? Oh, less than a day to work it all out. Brilliant. That's fantastic. So there's this mad dashing scramble between me and this other guy, Karam. And he's coming down from Birmingham, and everyone's kind of like, all hands to the pumps, quick, panic. And his partner's like, yeah, it's going to be great. We got this client coming along, lots of money, and the client's sending emails back going, oh, yeah, can't wait to see what you guys come up with. And it's like, shit.
You're saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I was like,
can't wait either.
Yeah, I'm going to be shocked to see what's coming. And then, get to Monday, and Karen's come down from Bristol, and we got another partner swanning about called Dom, and he's kind of saying, oh, I'm sure you guys will be great and it'll all be fine. And we're like, and then Karen goes off, and as he goes off, the partner who arranged the meeting goes, sorry chaps, won't be in today. And it's like, oh, right, so it's now just us and the client who we've never met before and have no idea what we're doing. And we don't know what we're trying to be advertising or trying to win him over with. Brilliant. So
you showed him a torrent of Split.
Yeah, it did. Apparently, it was a romantic comedy from 2016. And so it's like, oh god, here we go. Now we're really kind of, now the sweat's really starting to form. It's like, oh Christ, now there's two lowly graphicsy dudes and a client, and then it's suddenly like, oh no, there's two of them coming. Oh, great. Now what? And then, as we're setting up all the kit, my computer has to be disassembled and moved into an office and all this shit's going on. Suddenly, 11th hour, client goes, nah, we're not coming in.
Fuckers.
And it's like, my computer's all in bits all over the floor. And I'm fucking bastards. So there was that. That was fun. But that was all going on. And I got so cross. I was very cross because I'd basically been stressing and it was getting progressively worse. And I hate having to wing things in front of people who obviously are more clued up on something than I am, because then you're literally talking bollocks. You're talking bollocks at someone with a lot more experience. You're like, oh yeah, as you can see, this air conditioning unit in 3D is fantastic. Look at the shiny surfaces. It's like, fucking what? What kind of idiot are you? So anyway, I sort of go, right, I've got to take a deep breath because the other partner is still swanning about going, oh, chaps, how's it going? It's all going to be good. Yep, tickety-boo, sort of thing. Tick-tock, down with the Nazis, God bless. And off he goes. And it's like, fucking... And again, I've not done my full Cartoon Network Hulk out in the open in this office yet, so I'm still trying to maintain a air of calm. So I went into the toilet. And I'm like, sort of ineffectually ripping pieces of fucking hand towel to pieces. And then, like a fool that I was, I took the hand towels and I threw them into the toilet. And it's like, what? So rather than like tissue paper, it's like slightly heavier. And the thing with the toilets in our office is when you flush them, they kind of bubble, they kind of fizz. And so I'm like, and I sort of thought, oh, fuck it, hit the flush. And as I did that, the toilet went. Next thing I know, I got piss and tissue paper all over the floor and all over the shoes, and I'm like, I'm even more angry now than I ever was before. And then I spent 20 minutes sort of scrubbing around with, like, you know when you do that thing where you get like you kind of get a towel or a tissue paper or a hand towel, rip it off, and then basically stick it to the bottom of your shoe, and they just kind of do this kind of weird dad dance shuffle, like the twist. And I basically did that all around the toilet cubicle, basically cleaning up while still going, punch the air, imaginary keys to the face. So there was that. Other than that, we moved the cast successfully off of Geek Planet Online, and again, I'd like to say thank you to Geek Planet Online for supporting Blackdog for the last 6 years, and I wish them all the very best. And then I put that on Facebook, and people are going, "Oh, is there animosities? They're panicking." Oh, it's like, no. We're just doing new stuff, and we're thinking of doing other stuff, and it just wouldn't be right to do it on Geek Planet Online, and it would just. I don't want to cause offence to anyone. So apparently I'm very good at that. Apparently, just by posting videos. So apart from that. or asking questions. Apparently, you can't do that either. So I'm fed up trying to cause offence. I'm just trying to say, nope, no problems. Everything's fine. We moved because we want to just make sure that everyone's happy and not stepping on anyone's toes. So that's what the Geek Planet Online thing was, and I wish them well, and that's all cool. And yeah. That's about it. I'm just wrapping it up as quick as I can, really, in terms of trying to do what my week is. But I tell you one thing, guys. Have you seen this bit of paper before? Oh.
Where have all the heroes gone? We're left with all the nods. I just want one Superman and not this bunch of slobs. Not a single one of them could take on Mr. Freeze. They're so lightweight they could get blown away in a stiff breeze. The shitty heroes. Their bandage costumes are just a little bit too tight. They're not very cool and they're not very fast, and they're most likely die in a fight. It's shitty heroes. Just one look at these dudes and you know they ain't right. Marvel DC doesn't mean much to me because they are a total shite. Hulk smash!
Puny Lounge Singer.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes. It's Shitty Superheroes back once again for the Renegade Master, Beat Boy. No, never mind. I was going to rap, but that's just going to sound like the most middle-class thing you've ever heard in your life.
Dad rap.
Dad rap. Yo, yo.
Rap.
Life hacks. Yo, hear the drummer get wicked, yo. Anyway, so yes, Shitty Superheroes back again. It came back for a special reason. Basically, it was sent to me via the magic of the Facebook internet messaging system from fiendish Dr. Will, and it was too good not to include. I just had to bring it back for this one. So, ladies and gentlemen, right. Now, obviously, Darren and Jim and Elton are all on Skype, so I'm going to have to read this out and then send them the link. So, here we go. Here's the history. The real name of this character is unknown. However, Bill was a scientific experiment. He was aimed at granting people superpowers. And Raymond Lefjestik and his colleague Tashidi Fujitsu were brilliant college students with a research grant at the faculty near Coney Island. The two scientists' lab experiments of using cybernetics to enhance beings resulted in the creation of augmented abilities, human-level intelligence and strength, and the ability to project small illusions for communication. For a pair of lobsters. Bill and Don. Yes. And now I shall send you the link. Paste. There you go. Yes. The two scientists were infatuated with superheroine Marvel Girl and were upset when she transformed into the Phoenix. Attempting to create their own Marvel Girl by kidnapping a girl and implanting with cybernetics in her, the scientists performed similar experiments on their lab assistant, allowing to bestow telekinetic abilities, and they failed, however. Basically, at some point, it goes on and on here. Basically, they ended up creating two lobsters. The scientists were denied further funding, and Gomi, a lab assistant they were trying to give telekinetic abilities to, ran away with the lobsters, only to discover that they were intelligent and had human strength. And we are now talking about Bill the Lobster, who worked out of the Beat Street Club in Manhattan. His height was a full 1 foot 2 inches. He was green, and he was a cyborg lobster. His powers are: Bill has greater intelligence and strength than a normal lobster. That's it. Bill's life was not without tragedy, though, because he had a partner, another lobster, also enhanced, called Don the lobster. At some point, Bill made friends and accompanied the fallen angels on adventures, but tragedy struck when Devil Dinosaur, who later joined the team following a trip to Dinosaur World, accidentally stepped on Don, killing him. And Bill retaliated by attacking the superhero Moonboy until Sirin broke them up. Nonetheless, grief-stricken Bill continued to serve the fallen angels, accompanying them to Coconut Grove. And the inhabitants of Coconut Grove captured the fallen angels, intending them to use in experiments to continue their evolution. And Bill defeated them. I'm not going to read any more of this shit. It's like been written by a halfwit.
Are you actually saying these words?
Yeah, these are words. Yeah, there are words coming out of my mouth, but it's starting to feel like there's just words that don't make sense.
One of the drawings.
Yeah.
that accompany this page that you sent us.
Yes.
Are of a green lobster.
Yes,
and
that'll
a
be
blue
Bill.
lobster.
That's Dom.
Dry humping someone's feet.
Yes, that is true. Yes, yeah. Bill the green lobster, endowed with strength and intellect. Unlike Don, he's a normal green lobster who's only enhanced by cybernetic implants.
Wow.
There you go. Cyborg lobster, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah. Apparently, he was labelled the crustacean saviour. Make of that what you will.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Shitty Superheroes return briefly, thanks to Fiendish Dr. Will supplying me with a lobster called Bill. Anybody got anything to say?
Thanks, Will.
Wow.
That's pretty much what I thought. Yeah.
Apparently he features in the Marvel Pets Handbook, I've discovered.
Nice. Apparently he also features in Civil War crossover, as both Bill and Gormy, the lab assistant, were considered as potential recruits for the Initiative program. There you go. Marvel Civil War. That would have been a lot better if they suddenly started chucking lobsters about.
Yeah, what as a dinner?
Yeah. Thermidor. Maybe that was a more flame grilled lobster. But yeah, anyway, there you go. So look out for that, ladies and gentlemen. Lobster Thermidor, the superhero in the next Marvel movie. I'm sure he'll feature in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, probably. What's your betting? Anyway,
I think so.
Yeah, so there you go. Thank you very much for that, Will. I've obviously nonplussed my colleagues who were neither aware of the fact that we were going to do shitty superheroes or that I was going to show them a lobster
with googly eyes.
And basically, yeah. So there you go. That's why this section is dead. Thanks again, Will. Not for killing the section. That happened on its own. Anyway, so let's move on to this week's film, which is Near Dark. Roll the jingle.
Think back to the films you remember as good, ones you haven't viewed in a while. How the story rocked and the actors were great, the camera work had flair and style. What would happen now if you watch them today? Are they still as fresh as before? Or do they stink as bad as a piss-covered tramp and leave you screaming on the floor? You know it can be real sad. Find that special film is bad. Wish you just left it a pleasant memory. Now it's time for rose tinted specs on Blackdog. Watching movies from the past you thought was great. Yes, it's time for rose tinted specs on Blackdog. Send your feedback in and tell us how they rate.
Right, okay, so Near Dark. Yes, Near Dark is a 1987 American Western horror film directed by Catherine Bigelow, her inaugural directorial debut, which is kind of double emphasizing the same thing, so forget that. It's like being very special and twice as unique. Anyway, and it was written by her and Eric Red. Ironically, Eric Red met her through the Aliens connection, and he went on to write a script that wasn't developed for Alien 3. Fact fans, there you go. Anyway, the story follows a young man in a small Midwestern town who becomes involved with a family of nomadic American vampires, starring a then little-known actor Adrian Pasdar, who would later turn up as Peter Petrelli in Heroes, in case you thought you recognised him but couldn't work out where. The film was part of a revival of serious vampire movies in the late 1980s until Twilight shot them stone dead. And despite the film's poor performance at the box office upon release, critic reviews have been positive, and over the years the film has garnered a cult following. It stars Adrian Pasdar, Jenny Wright, Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, Jeanette Goldstein, and Tim Thomason. The music was done by Tangerine Dream, and it was a brief running time of 95 minutes on the nose. It had a budget of $5 million, and how much did it make, Jim?
4 million.
Okay. Elton?
1.5 million.
And Darren?
I'd say 8 million.
It only made 3.4. So it actually made a loss. The vampire films had become trendy by the time Near Dark's production, and with the success of 1995's Fright Night and 1987's Lost Boys, released 2 months before Near Dark and grossing $32 million, Catherine Bigelow wanted to film a Western movie that departed from cinematic convention. When she and co-writer Eric Red found financial backing for a Western, difficult to obtain, it was suggested that they try mixing a Western with another more popular genre. Her interest in revisionist reinterpretation of cinematic traditions led her and Red to combine two genres that they regarded as ripe for reinterpretation, the Western and the vampire movie. The combination of these two genres has been visited at least twice before on the big screen, with the 1959 Curse of the Undead and 1966 Billy the Kid versus Dracula. Bigelow knew and later married director James Cameron, who directed Aliens in 1986, and the film shares three cast members, Paxton, Goldstein and Henriksen. With Near Dark, a cinema scene in the background in the early part of the film has aliens on its marquee, and Cameron played a man who flips off Severin. The film was scored by Tangerine Dream. The critical response. In her review in the New York Times, Karen James wrote that Miss Bigelow's too-studied composition, Caleb in silhouette riding a horse towards the camera, clashes with her unstudied approach of character looks. Very highbrow. Conversely, Jonathan Rosenbaum of the Chicago Reader was impressed by Bigelow's first foray into big-budget films with the Hillbilly Vampire movie, describing it as beautifully shot. The Washington Post said that the intermixing of vampire legends of westerns and biker movies has the end result that feels that is both outrageous and yet poetic, and it has an extravagant, bloody thrill plus something else, something that comes close to genuine emotion. The film I'm trying to look for. Oh yeah, and it's currently ranked 34 on Rotten Tomatoes' top 50 horror movies of all time, and has one of the 50 best reviewed horror movies of all time with a rating of 88%. So there you go. There was a remake planned, but that fell through due to the fact that the remake would have similar conception to Twilight, including containing a romance between human and vampire characters, and so was scrapped. So, there you go. Who hasn't seen this film before?
I hadn't seen it.
Okie dokie. Right then, Elton, would you want to go first then, sir?
Okay.
I'm going to take that as a oh god moment.
Yeah,
go on.
Okay, I'll be honest with you. I didn't see the Western appeal to it until just now, which is strange.
Okay.
Didn't notice that at all. With vampire movies, I struggle with vampire movies. It's something that just doesn't really click with me.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried for the Blackdog as well. Tried watching.
We did
vampire movies for you.
We've done a couple, haven't we? Really?
Yeah, and I haven't really been taken by them. The best we got was the What You Do in the Shadows.
Oh yes.
And I really did enjoy that.
Yes. Go wake up, Peter.
Are you eating paschetti?
Biscotti.
Biscotti.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. But I really struggle with this genre of film.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I can deal with zombies. This is just, I think it's just the magical cannot kill type thing, and then you can only kill them by a certain way. With this, though, this was flipping good. This was really, really good.
Yeah.
I was highly impressed with this.
Cool.
First off, the cast.
Mm.
It's got some big names now. I'm not too sure whether they were big names at the time.
Not really. I mean, you know, as I said from the wiki there, it was around the same time as Aliens, and so, you know, Paxton and Henriksen and Jeanette Goldstein were kind of visible as faces rather than names, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say.
Yeah. But I love the way that we're introduced to Caleb and May, and you don't really get the big names that we know now until a little bit later on during the movie. And their introduction is just turning everything up to 11. It's just brilliant. I love the world that they've built around these vampires, and they can be taken as just outlaws at certain points.
Yeah.
The scene in the bar is just fucking phenomenal. I loved that. That was so good. So good. And that little kid, Homer,
yeah.
Joshua John Miller.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant. Utterly fucking brilliant, I thought. I don't know what he was. It just appeals to me. Just a dirty little vampire kid. Fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
But also brilliant at the same time. I didn't get bored during it at all. I was totally hooked on it. It did feel 80s. The music was a bit jarring for me at certain points.
Yeah.
But I felt it ran along at quite a good pace. It didn't really pause for me. It didn't really take me out. And it had a nice little twist of bringing them back from vampires as well, which I have never encountered.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in the lore of vampires or what.
I think you need to speak to Jim on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the Eldritch Master.
Jim, is that in the vampire lore that you can take a blood transfusion from your dad?
It has been done before. A lot of people think Near Dark did it first, but it has been done before.
Right.
Not to mention people becoming vampires by having a transfusion of vampire blood as well.
Yeah.
But it's in actually Dracula because Mina Harker is turned but cured.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's older than you think.
Nice.
But they do that with blood transfusions as well.
Yeah,
Excellent.
they do actually, don't they? Huh? God,
There you go.
there you go. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
I feel like the spotlight came up in the corner of the room just for a second,
I feel like he's just taken one step back and disappeared into the darkness again.
and then like that, he was gone.
But okay, that is something that I haven't remembered before. But I thought it was really nicely done. I don't know where to go with this. I just had a thoroughly entertaining hour and 30 odd minutes of this. I was really surprised on it. I felt Lance Henriksen. He was a real good bad guy.
Yeah.
But he didn't have to do anything. You just knew he was a fucker. And it worked really well. And me in Faces, I did not know that was Jeanette Goldstein until maybe half hour through. I was like, hang on a minute. I know who you are.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's a good thumbs up as well. But the kills in this as well, they're brilliant, entertaining, and a little bit gory at times as well, which you need. I think you need entertaining kills, but also a bit gory and a bit, I haven't seen that before. Death by Spur. Brilliant. Love it. And some of the lines in there as well. Bill Paxton is just phenomenal anyway. He can really ham up a role, or he can really throw himself into it and you can just totally believe he is that character.
Yeah.
And I do love him for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am. Thank you very much for showing me this. This was brilliant. I totally love this. One downside for me, which it can be forgiven for because it is a special effect. But okay, the upside. When Homer was on fire outside running away. Yeah. There are certain points where it looks bloody good.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, when you got Lance Henriksen and Jeanette Goldstein in the car, and you got they're burning up as well.
Yeah.
It looks terrible. It looks like Jerry Anderson fire. And the problem with Jerry Anderson is they couldn't get water or fire the correct size because fire's
because
a
of scale.
certain size.
Yeah, exactly.
And this, it kind of happens in this. I like what they're trying to do, and I forgave it for it. But also, you're looking at it going, that's not right. That's the wrong size.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
But I have to hold my hands up. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Excellent. Brilliant.
Oh, well, that's good because you've talked before about your troubles with vampire films, and this has been one I'd have recommended you to watch to see a good one. So I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, at the end of last week, I didn't know anything about this. You said that it had been moved up, and because of Bill passing,
Yeah.
we're going to be sticking this on there. I thought, okay, fine, let's go for that. I've never heard of it or seen it, and one of you guys mentioned vampires. I went, oh no, I may not like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, this really worked for me. But honestly, I didn't really see the Western appeal. I could see the cowboys and stuff, but it just didn't really click as a Western. But now looking back on it, it's strongly in there, and I just missed it.
Yeah, there was a big phase sort of during the late 80s, early 90s with this kind of reinvention of the Western in sort of more modern sort of settings. Oh God, there was Lone Star, and there was help me out here. There was Lone Star. There would later be Unforgiven, obviously, which was much more obviously Western. But there was a lot of films where they take Westerns as a kind of basis and then sort of Last Man Standing with Bruce Willis, which is essentially High Noon but with 30s gangsters. There was lots of films like that kind of doing the rounds at the time, and I think this was kind of right at the vanguard of that kind of let's reinvent the Western, but let's chuck something else in. A bit like when Die Hard came out, and then suddenly it was like Die Hard on a boat, Die Hard on a train, Die Hard on a thing, and it was like westerns with 30s gangsters, Western with vampires, Western with
Westerns in space.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
that's Outland.
Yeah, Outland, which was High Noon. So that was I'm glad you liked it. I'm really glad you liked it. It's really cool. Cool. Okay, well that's a good start. And what about Paxton? I mean, this was picked because basically we couldn't do Aliens again.
Yeah.
Did you like Severin as a character?
Yeah, it's another almost too over the top character.
Yeah.
Same with Hudson. He's knife edging it, that he's almost over the edge to the point where it's a bit silly. But this he has this thing of just balancing it just right. He did it in Aliens. He did it in this. He did it in True Lies as well.
Oh yeah,
I felt.
Yeah, when he was it was the used car salesman pretending to be a spy.
Yeah, but then you also have Twister, where it's not as it's more reined in, but he has this knack of just knife edging it every single time.
Yeah,
but I thought he was thoroughly entertaining on this, and possibly my favourite vampire ever.
Excellent, fantastic. Well, there you go. That's no small praise from a man who doesn't like vampire movies. That's for sure.
No, definitely not.
Cool. Okay. Well, then let's move on to Jim. Jim.
Well, I saw this film when it first came out. I think I saw it at the cinema. I remember it coming out, got a very limited release. It was a very small film that it snuck out under the radar, pretty much of most of the sort of fantasy press at the time. And it was suddenly kind of people, have you seen this Near Dark film? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think its fortunes were probably helped because I seem to remember the British poster had from the producer of The Golden Child on it.
Oh God,
He's
yeah.
going to talk about for a bum steer. Jesus.
Charles Dance and Eddie Murphy are not appearing in this film. Yeah.
Oh, we've done the Golden Child.
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't.
No. If we ever do Casual Racism Month, we'll definitely throw it in there.
I got the knife. Now somebody switch the goddamn lights on.
Yeah, that's right.
But yes, but anyhow, so I caught it on video kind of as soon as I could, and I was kind of like, wow, that is a really good vampire movie. I did have an issue, one niggle with it at the time, and that was curing May at the end. Because it was one of those things, and it's still, on this viewing, it still sat with me a bit. It's one thing, it's kind of, I can buy him being cured because he's just turning. But if she's been a vampire for years and years and years, yeah, it might be a bit tougher than just a quick change of blood.
Yeah.
But also, I think just where my taste were, I think it'd just be a bit more sort of poetic and tragic if they couldn't be able to save her.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
Because it was just kind of, it almost goes into a Guns N' Roses music video, sort of sentimental cowboy
Patience.
romance at the end.
Yeah.
The video to Patience, where they're all in the church at the beginning.
the
You've
one.
got Slash guitaring over the fucking grave, and
I was just waiting for him to Slash to appear on top of the barn and launch into a solo.
Jesus, that would not be out of place at all. That's fucking epic.
Well, there you go.
But so coming back to it, I've not seen it for quite a while. I watched it quite a bit back in the day. 'Cause it's one of those movies. You've not seen Near Dark? Oh, Christ, you've got to rent that Near Dark. You've got to see Near Dark. And I did see it at the cinema, I think a couple of times. 'Cause it's one of those films that my local art house film used to, do kind of cult movies. And it used to get, it was a regular on the roster in the 90s as a bona fide cult film. I still really enjoyed it this time. However, I haven't not seen it for a while. I kind of thought, actually, I got through that. It's a bit slight, really. And I thought, it was really low budget, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, and that's not a ding on the film at all, because that's a plus for the film because it's so well made and so well just sort of composed, the way it unwinds its story. You forget you're watching a really cheap film.
Yeah.
That was made quickly. You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's almost like, oh, we're getting to the end now. There's not much to this. Oh, yeah, because there was skin. That's right. Oh, yeah. Go. Well done. I mean, I was particularly pleased this was chosen when I watched it because I think this is a great performance from Bill Paxton. I mean, everyone goes on about Hudson in Aliens, but he is just a comedy meathead.
Yeah.
His character in this here he's an asshole. He's funny. He's also evil, but also just he's somehow likable.
Yeah,
it's almost touching when he hands over the spur. You're one of us.
Yeah,
you think, oh, he does have a heart. You think, hang on, what am I saying? I just watched him massacre people in a bar.
Yeah,
just for fun and delight in it, like a cat playing with a mouse.
Yeah,
that bar scene is fantastic. I mean, I think kind of the thing about the Western, I think that's almost lazy criticism, I think. Because to me, something I didn't pick up when I was watching it in the 90s, but was very obvious to me now, having seen a lot more of sort of movies and exploitation films, is Near Dark fits into kind of a subgenre of road movies about bad people on wheels. Yeah. And this runs through like the extremes of The Hills of Eyes in the early 70s to things like Two Lane Blacktop, right through to, things like Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
And this is the idea that, America's a big place and you just have a band of absolute psychopaths roaming around, doing what they like and never getting caught. Yeah. And if you're unlucky, you'll end up at the wrong truck stop or the wrong diner and they're going to come in.
Yeah. It is that kind of weird. It's that thing that almost like Wolf Creek, isn't it? It's that sort of there's out there in the great unknown. There's some weirdos out there, and you're going to stumble across them, and they could just be weirdos.
Well, yeah, it
Or-
reminded me of another film of this era, actually. It's a similar, like, hybrid movie.
Oh, yes.
It's often referred to as sort of being one of these revisionist westerns and
Yeah.
a road movie. The Hitcher.
That was it.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
the one I was trying to think. Son of a bitch. Well done, Jim. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect one. That's a man against the forces of nature kind of western, isn't it? But
Well, very much so. That's kind of, it's an old trope in westerns of kind of the young naive fellow coming up against the experienced bad guy, and they somehow mirror each other as well.
yeah. Another one like that, which you've just literally has just sprung into my mind while you're saying it, is Richard Stanley's Dust Devil.
Yes, yeah, that's
Oh.
another killer on the road movie.
Yeah, which was who may or may not have supernatural elements. Oh, Darren Elton, have you seen Dust Devil?
No. I remember you watching it and telling me about it, but I never got round to seeing it.
I'm just wondering whether or not that might be one of those ones where I have a much better, rosier vision of it in my head than when I see it again. Might be worth putting on the docket if I can find it. Anyway, sorry, carry on, Jim. I just went off on a bit of a weird tangent there, but
Yes, I really enjoyed this revisit. I mean, I think kind of it's one of those things. It's kind of, I think the music, the Tangerine Dream. I think it's Tangerine Dream's finest film score. And it does sound a bit bleepy and boopy at times, which does time lock it to the 80s, which is a shame because otherwise it's almost timeless.
yeah,
That's the one thing that really locks it into its period.
yeah.
And it's also one of those, I think, kind of, it'd be nice to have a proper, fully remastered edition because I think that score could use a remastering just to give it a bit more bass and poke again.
Yeah,
But, it's, not a deal breaker though by any means.
no,
Not a deal breaker. But no, I mean it's a good film. I like the fact that they never say the word vampire in it.
yeah,
But then they don't have to, though. You know what I mean? It's blindingly obvious, and the film does pay you the compliment of that. Yeah, you'll work it out. It's bloody obvious, The clues are there. Put it together. But I just think it's just so nicely done, and it's such a good ensemble cast. I mean, it is a lot of Aliens alumni, but for my money, they all in this smaller film get way better roles and really a chance to do some acting.
yeah. Actually, I agree with that, and it's kind of ironic because I remember, I can't remember where I read it now, but Michael Biehn or Michael Bean, depending on how you want to pronounce it, was also sort of up for the role as Caleb.
Oh, right.
And he turned it down because he didn't think the script was good enough.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah, and then he
Throw
was,
another regret on the fire.
yeah, I was going to say, and then he was never seen again until, was it Planet Terror? Was it?
Now he's got a fucking pyre, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got Darth Vader burning on the top of it. It's that fucking big. Yeah, but anyway, so cool, okay. Shall we move on, or you got?
Yep, no, I'm done.
Okay, brilliant.
I probably might remember something later.
I have no doubt it will turn into Brain Fart Central later on as we get going. What about you, Dal? How did you find this film?
Right, I saw this, I think, about the same time that you did.
You did indeed. We watched it on VHS.
That was right. Yeah, we both saw it together.
Mm.
Yeah. Now, I remember stuff differently than the film actually puts it up on screen. Right.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. There's the bit when we were in the bar.
Yeah.
I don't remember Lance Hendrickson doing the bit about the glass. I always remember it as being Bill Paxton that did that. Put the glass underneath the barman's throat and just went slice.
Yeah.
And then it came out like that. And he made a comment about orange juice, and it's like, there's none of that in this. I'm thinking, what fucking film was I watching?
Man goes senile, blames film.
Exactly. There you go. Oh, blimey. Sorry, 1 minute. Headphones falling off.
Oh, right.
So, while I still enjoyed it, I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed it the first time I watched it.
Right.
I've got to say that, because I started noticing some of the performances in this.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, the guy who plays, Nathan Petrelli, we'll call him that. I can't remember his real name.
Adrian Pazar.
Yeah, stiff as a board.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just didn't think he was very good at all. The girl as well, May.
Yeah.
Again,
Okay.
just not very effective. Bill Paxton, of course, just chewing the scenery. Get out there, do your job, Bill. Get it done. He does what he does with any character. It's I think the only time I've ever seen him play a character that's kind of normal, and that was Twister.
What about Apollo 13?
Yeah, there's still a bit of frantic Hudson in there.
Yeah, I suppose
in the
so,
Apollo 13 one. He kind of loses it a bit in that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he gets the pneumonia, doesn't he, flying around?
Yeah, because there's two sorts of Bill Paxton, as far as I'm concerned. There's the Weird Science Bill Paxton. Cover yourself. Have you got no shame? There's that one, and then there's Hudson.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're both actually the same sort of character.
Yeah, not that far different, to be honest. Not that off the beaten track.
So maybe Chet from evolved into Hudson.
Yeah, I can see that. that works for my head canon.
Yeah. So I've got no problem with the other three with Bill, also Jeanette and Lance as well. I've got no problem with them doing their thing. I thought Jeanette Goldstein was very good in that as well. She brought the sort of like the allure, the very sort of sultry sort of female vampire into it. I thought she was very, very good in that. And to go from something like Vasquez to this, it shows quite a range, I think.
Yeah. And the
So-
next time we'd see her, she'd be blown up in Lethal Weapon 2, I think.
Yes.
While taking a dive off of a diving board, and then a swimming pool explodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Diplomatic immunity.
If I've
Anyway,
got
sorry, carry on.
one thing criticism based, I would have liked to have seen how they dealt with the guys in the car, or at least suddenly a faraway shot and then screaming.
Oh, what? You're going to look really funny with your face ripped off.
Exactly. That would have been really good. I would have enjoyed that because otherwise it just cuts to a totally different scene, and it's right.
Yeah, I didn't mind that so much, but yeah, go on, carry on.
I think that's about it, really.
Yeah. So overall, it was just a bit of a meh for you, is it?
No, I mean, there's still enjoyable stuff in it, but I don't feel as strongly about it watching it this time as I did the first time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think it's been so long since I saw it that this is now, I'm seeing this literally for the first time.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, it is that kind of thing, isn't it? It's that whole you go away from a film. It's the essence of rose tinted specs, isn't it? It's the fact that in your head this film was this one thing, and then you come back to it and it's actually not.
Yeah, it's totally different.
And especially since in the interim we've had how many sparkly vampire movies and that was it, Interview with a Vampire, and all these other ones where vampires have been more romanticized and become the sort of de facto monster, misunderstood monster in cinema. It's kind of like, that I guess in context, Near Dark now seems quite quaint.
Something else I will say, no matter what criticism I may level at this film, it's still way better than Lost Boys.
Without a doubt.
Which came out. Didn't it come out around about the same time?
3 months before Lost Boys came out.
That's right.
And yeah, Lost Boys to me is the same as Goonies. It's a film which people who like it love it, and people who don't despise it. And I'm very much in the despise camp. I think it was the start of that kind of sort of, I don't know, take pop culture, stick some fangs on it, make it sexy, ergo vampire, and then just have we're all bad boys being bad, but we're kind of sexy, yeah. Then throw in sort of Joel Schumacher and his obsession with pink light bulbs and backplated smoke, and it's just like, oh, for God's sakes, it's as camp as a fucking row of scout huts. So yeah, no, the Lost Boys is one of those artifacts of the 80s that if I never watched it ever again, I would never feel like my life was wasted. Yeah, I mean it was vampires for cool kids. Yeah,
It was
not
comic book vampires, wasn't it?
Well, it's
Especially because you had Corey Feldman working in the comic book store.
yeah, but also I think it was that whole thing of like, oh, look at Kiefer Sutherland, isn't he sexy? Yes, he is. Oh, he's a bad
That was the Generation
boy.
X, though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was that period.
yeah, it was vampire movies for the John Hughes generation. I mean, it was that whole thing of hey kids, you're all vampires because your parents don't understand you. Stick it to the man, yeah. Oh, by the way, here's an oiled up bloke with a saxophone for no apparent reason with some dry ice, yeah. Yeah, because we live on the rock and roll edge, yeah. We've all got bikes, yeah. It's like, oh, for goodness sake. Yeah, and then that more than anything fucking led into Twilight with the, hey kids, don't like your parents, become a vampire, yeah. Then you're really grown up because you can roll around and pretend to be really hard while wandering around your local Sainsbury's, yeah. By the way, here's some more pink light bulbs and a fucking Tina Turner soundtrack, yeah.
Nowadays, if they did vampires, they'd be on the hoverboards, wouldn't they?
Nowadays, if Lost Boys got remade, I tell you, if Lost Boys got remade now, it'd be a Justin Bieber, Ed Sheeran vehicle, and the fucking thing would have Taylor Swift as the main character, and then everyone would run around being so down with the kids, and yeah, and then basically they'd all be like, yeah, we don't want to be with you oldies, and then it'd be set in Eastbourne or somewhere like that where everyone's like average age is 406, just so you can be like Footloose or something like that, where you can kind of like all swan around being slightly threatening but know that actually you've got all the power. Yeah, the police can't do nothing to you, man. Yeah,
They'd all have mobile phones and they'll all be sitting there going, turn the brightness down, man, turn the brightness down.
Yeah.
And they'd all, at the very end, they'd all be killed by bright phones.
Yeah, well, they probably wouldn't. What would happen is they'd probably all just look meaningfully off into the distance. The whole thing would go black and white. There'd be a pop video playing, and then they just drive off into the sunset, Point Break style. Oh, Point Break. There's another one.
Oh, no, Point Break's great.
No.
There's hardly any vampires in that.
Yeah, no, there's just a lot of sucking, to be honest. But back to Near Dark. For me, I haven't seen this in probably about 10 years, and it's a bit like Darren. I think I had in my head a film that was a lot more Bill Paxton than what actually was. The overall film I really enjoyed. Still, I watched it this time around and I sort of really enjoyed it. But I found that I could enjoy it and not necessarily have to concentrate on it. Does that make sense? I think generally the story's a bit slight.
Yeah.
And what really alleviates it, because I was really into this because I was riding that whole aliens fanboy thing for a while, is what was the quotable dialogue and the chemistry between those three leads, the vampire leads. And that kind of carried the film for me. And I still think that, I know we're doing a sort of like, we're doing this because of Bill Paxton, but I think he and Lance Henriksen in that film are basically the only two reasons that film is as successful in portraying its atmosphere and pushing the story along as it is. I mean, Catherine Bigelow does go on to make Oscar-winning films, and you can see a lot of the stuff that she does. Is you can see the start of a director sort of developing her craft. Sort of look and the art and the lighting and the shot composition and all that kind of stuff is really good.
Yeah.
But for me, that film, looking back on it now, is carried by that bar scene, by the interaction between the vampire characters, and especially just the thing in the hotel room after they've escaped the shootout. When they're sitting in the thing and they're deciding to have 5-bullet Russian roulette poker or something, sitting around the table, and those little backstory bits that they flick out. Like, for example, best one is Jesse turning around and going, "Let's just say I fought for the South, we lost," and suddenly you get this whole, kind of implied backstory, and the documentary that came in the 2-disc edition of the DVD that I've got has this whole thing that all the actors sort of basically decided to do backstories for all their characters to inform their thing, because the script was so slight. And, so you do have all that stuff with Bill, with Lance Henriksen having the sort of Confederate sort of stuff around him. There's little clues in there, like there's something to do with his coat that's kind of in there, and just the way he talks and all this kind of thing. And there's a lot about Near Dark that I still love. I still think it's a nice, atmospheric, sort of noir film. And it's when it works, it really does work. That shootout in the hotel room where basically the vampires are all hiding between the bullet holes because they can't sort of stand up to do the bullets, and it can't, they're becoming they're in like a death maze. It's not because of the bullets, but it's because of the light that gets left behind, and the way that's filmed is brilliant. Just that sort of bringing out the darkness right down, and then suddenly it's like you get all the daylight coming through, and it has this really sort of sweaty, dirty, gritty atmosphere that really is well done. And like I say, the quotes, the dialogue is really sharp and nicely delivered, and all of that works. The bits that don't work for me are things that are, have already been brought up. Like Jim said, the whole thing about blood transfusions. Well, if it's that easy to get rid of vampirism, for a vampire that's been going as long as May has, then why don't all the vampires do it? And, things like that. And Homer himself, I think the kid who plays that really plays it well, but there's occasionally the odd shot where they try and make him look menacing or sort of hard, like a old soul inside a young body, and it just doesn't work. There's one bit where he turns around and he's trying to do this whole thing of, I've got your balls or something like this, and he's kind of like, next time, spell my name wrong and I'll kill you. And it's like, really? I mean, I know you're a vampire and everything, but it's just not threatening at all.
I don't know. I thought there was quite a nice balance with him, because you do have the old soul in the young body, but also when he's trying to bring the daughter back into the house, it's very easy for him to revert to a childlike status.
Yeah. I'm not throwing him under the bus. I don't think he's a terrible actor. I just think there's a couple of shots where he's included where it just makes you feel like, oh, we've got a kid actor on here. We can only have him on set for so many hours. Therefore, let's get as much footage of him as possible, and we'll just stick that in to sort of like show that he's still there. And there's one bit like in the bar where he's kind of doing that sort of shimmy dance thing, sitting on the table, and it's just like you cut to him and you just think, why is that shot there? It's just making him look like a prick. But that's just me looking back on it. But but looking at this sort of like the Bill Paxton character, Severin, I could have watched another film with him in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you could have
definitely.
lifted that character and the Jesse character, and you could have made either a prequel, or they do the vampire thing, and they didn't quite die, or they're going to come back another time because vampires don't die unless you see the body, sort of thing.
Yeah,
and that I would have been perfectly happy with, because the way those two acted, both were at either end of the spectrum in terms of performance, because like Lance Henriksen's character was all,
I'm gonna just talk like this and not really going to do an awful lot, but I'm really fucking evil.
And then meanwhile you've got Bill Paxton sort of like going up to 11, eating a bowl of sugar and then taking it up to 12, and then drinking some Red Bull and going up to 13. And then basically going, you know what, fuck it. Actually, I'm just going to take all the rings off. I'm going to drink all the Coke, and I'm away. And that bit in the bar, where he starts off with sort of like, I ever tell you about Buffalo Bill and all this sort of thing, and and then Peter Man and all this kind of shit. It just kind of ramps up and ramps up and ramps up and ramps up, and so by the time he gets to the sort of woo, finger licking good and all that kind of stuff, and looking at Adrian Pasdar with a big shotgun hole in his chest and going, oh shit, look at you, oh shit, and you're like, oh my god, this guy is absolutely a psychopath, but there's something dangerous about that you actually kind of like, and it's kind of an interesting, because it could just so easily have been, I mean, as you say, it's Elton, it's like a knife edge of a performance, because it could have just been a douchebag, and you could have just gone, actually, he's just an arsehole. Just move on. But by the time you do the whole thing with the Spurs, and then later on with the cards, and then that bit when Homer brings in his Caleb's sister, and he's like, "Oh, who ordered in pizza?" and little asides like that, and little sort of like, "Oh, we keep odd hours." It's just a really interesting performance, which is just a lot of fun, and I think it's that fun that keeps me engaged with this film. I think if it was a much more po-faced vampire movie, if it was a sort of Lost Boys or a Twilight or an Interview with a Vampire or anything like that, I probably would have just gone, you know what, fuck it, I'm done, I've had enough of this. But I think I do dig the vampire film when it's got its tongue slightly in its cheek and it's having a lot of fun with the setup. Like Fright Night, like What We Do in the Shadows. I mean, all those three films, the thing that connects them is that none of them take the vampire genre seriously. There's no blokes wandering around in goth makeup going, oh, it's so miserable being a vampire, my life is ruined. Oh, I have found someone who looked like my wife who died 400 years ago. She is bound to love me just because she looks the same. Oh, and which is like 90% of the vampire movies out there. So yeah, I mean, I have some problems with Near Dark this time round, but I still love it, and I think that's just history and the performances and the direction that are carrying that off. I think the script, I think the story is quite slight, but the running time is definitely in that sort of not outstaying its welcome. Definitely hour and 30 in and out, and it's like, wow, even with the credits, that's still that's an hour and 20, and so its pace and its dialogue and its the actors and the direction really, really work for it. And I liked it. I thought it was great, but I certainly had more problems with it this time round than I did last time. But like I say, I would have picked Aliens as a more of a tribute for Bill Paxton, but this one to me was the next role that leapt out at me in my head when it comes to like notable roles of his. And I know he's done hundreds. I mean, he's done fucking tons. I mean, 5 seconds of looking on sort of IMDb will certainly tell you that. But I mean, he's
Thunderbirds.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? And sadly, Thunderbirds and things like that, and Navy SEALs and Predator 2, and One False Move. True Lies. I mean, all these little these bits, these parts. You always know he's there, and not always in a kind of look, he's waving his arms and going. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, one of his best films, I think, just changing subject a little bit, is actually A Simple Plan, which is a sort of like a noir thriller by Sam Raimi, and that is actually a really, really good film. And Frailty, actually, is also a really good film. But they're kind of films where he's doing something different, and you kind of don't get that sense of kind of the Bill Paxton. That when you say Bill Paxton, everyone thinks, Hudson.
Yeah.
Straight away, it's like that's the go-to character to sort of sum up his acting style in most people's minds. No one goes to Apollo 13 or Simple Plan, where he's essentially just a schmo who happens to find a bag full of money. So, yeah. I mean, Thunderbirds, I think he was all right in Thunderbirds. I
thought he was one of the best things in Thunderbirds.
Yeah. The thing that killed Thunderbirds was the fact that they just couldn't commit to how crazy it was going to be. And Ben Kingsley was clearly just sizing up the size of his conservatory in the back of his mind. But anyway, and he was also quite good in Edge of Tomorrow. But again, it was a smaller part, as the
it's a Sergeant
Major, yeah.
See, he's had some real good smaller parts.
Yeah.
In Titanic, he had the small part in there as well, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he was in Titanic. I mean, he's been in Spy Kids. Mighty Joe Young is another one where he kind of played it a bit more straight, the same as Twister kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, Tombstone was quite good, if I remember correctly. I mean, again, that's something that's one I've only seen once or twice, but I can't even remember what character he played. I know he wasn't Wild Bill, because I think that was you. Who was it? Wild Bill was was it Val Kilmer? But
no, I think wasn't he Doc Holliday?
Oh, that's right. It was Kurt Russell. That's it, Kurt Russell. But yeah, no. I mean, maybe we'll come back to that one. Maybe we'll do that if we ever return to Western Month when people aren't screaming, no more Westerns. But anyway, so overall, I think, I think Paxton's roles have been varied, but like I say, when he kind of has fun and lets loose, that's when people notice him the most. And Near Dark really does show that off, I think. Right, has anyone got anything else to add, or shall we move on to feedback?
No, feedback, I reckon.
Feedback? Yeah. Let's do that then.
Now put your hands up, here online, doing real fine. We're doing our podcast thing. It's called Blackdog, it's not like a job. Is anyone there listening? What do you think of our show? Let us know by MP3 or email. Just get it to us, it ain't no fuss. We'll even read your Twitter rings. Cause if you like us or you hate us, send some feedback in. Got a geek and punch and put some feedback in. If you think my voice is sexy, put some feedback in. Man, we really like it if you put some feedback in.
Okay, so feedback time. And as is per usual with films that are remotely not shit, we have a limited amount of feedback. Listen. In the background. All the audience yelling out. Right, okay, so we'll start our feedback with Chris Oster. And she writes, hold on one second. Hello, Black Doggers. We interrupt the in-process editing of my feedback for Battleship with a slightly rambling, less mentally organised feedback of Near Dark, a film I've seen a few times before and always enjoy going back to. And I'll be honest, I am glad we made the switch. I'll take mediocre vampires over cheap Transformer knockoffs any day. I should also mention I had a 5-page written feedback written on Near Dark that I edited and as it kept getting longer. I've cut it out and edited it down as much as possible. Sorry, it'll still be really long. Also, to state up front, when I use vampire in a generic sense, I'm referring to quasi-modern pop culture versions of the literary rather than based more on folklore vampires, just to save any nitpicking and semantics. So, to start off, to me, the best vampire stories could be about toxic relationships, repression, obsession, and or addiction, as well as the transformation that happens to people when they're affected by some combination of these things. It should deal with the forbidden or the taboo relationships and an insatiable need for it once tasted. By which I mean actually forbidden or taboo, not vampire and human girl relationships. Let the Right One In discusses issues of paedophilia, rape. Rape is a common trope in the countless vampire fiction stories. Michael Monitor's Still Life explores sexual exploitation, depression, and toxic codependence issues. Countless other stories use vampirism as an analogy for drug addiction. That is the core of the monster, and when the stories are the strongest. I bring up this standard because inevitably that's one standard on which I judge all vampire stories, including Near Dark, and although I enjoy the film, it only barely touches on the edge of what I think is good vampire fiction. Near Dark just doesn't go far enough. If Near Dark had been called Caleb Meets and Drives Around with Redneck Cannibal Family, we probably would have got a very similar feeling movie. Looking specifically at the vampires, I do have to wonder how they survive so long. They seem to be frequent and rather violent hunters if the bar scene is anything to go by. Being nomadic obviously helps, and I'm not sure that was enough though. At some point, the feds or the locals are going to pick up on all these disappearances. How had they not already been tracked down and killed before Caleb got on the scene? Don't take this too much as a criticism of the film, though, because I still enjoy it, even if the monsters are a bit weak for their species. They are still vicious and manipulative enough that they function as suitable villains, with enough interpersonal dynamics in the nuclear vampire family to make them interesting, and I just wish that I knew more about their everyday lives as vampires. One pleasant discovery for me was that Near Dark was directed and co-written by Catherine Bigelow. She's gone on to win Best Director a couple of times, and you can see, even in her earlier career, that she's going to go on to do good things. Aside from the ending, which is its weakest part, she clearly knew how to pick talented actors, get the best out of them, and put together a decent story and create a world around it. The film's strongest element is the atmosphere. It's timeless, unlike its contemporary, Lost Boys, which is painfully frozen in the late 80s. It's dusty, and you can almost feel the changes in temperature when the scene goes from day to night. Well, that's it for my feedback this week. I've made it as short as I possibly can, and I'm afraid it's still far too long. Actually, it's not. Definitely looking forward to hearing everyone else's thoughts on this subject. Let's do more vampire movies soon. Cheers, Chris. Well, thank you very much for that, Chris. I do agree that the vampirism is kind of secondary to the rest of the story in many ways. If it had just been sort of like murderous rampage, I don't think it would have been any different. Do you? Anyone? I mean, if they just been outlaws taking the western side of things, if they just been outlaws on the run, would that have been any different? With Caleb just not able to shoot and kill people that they're hijacking.
Well, I think it kind of was just like that anyway.
Yeah,
I've got to be honest. They didn't really show any discretion about who it is they were going to get killed. I thought they might have let his little sister and father go. I thought that might have been a little bit of humanity they might have introduced, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So I think you're dealing with characters like that anyway.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is taking Chris's point that the vampirism side of things was almost secondary to the actual tale. You didn't really need it. Would it have made that much difference to the story? And I kind of take her point that really it probably wouldn't have done.
Yeah. Maybe you're right on that one.
Yeah. Jim?
Interesting. Well, I think the thing is kind of, the vampirism, he becomes one of them. In a way, it'd be hard. You need a lot more plotting to get him to sort of go along with a gang of outlaws and become one of them in the same way.
Yeah.
But no, so there is a long section of him being infected, turned, trying to get away, and then sticking with them because they're the ones who can tell him what he now has become.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just an interesting point that she brings up. I just thought, if there was anyone else thought the same.
I mean, as for them not being detected, I would, point out the alarming stat that, according to specialists, they estimate at any one time in the US there are between 50 and 100 serial killers roaming between states uncaught.
Okay, nice. That's a lovely stat. Everyone, have fun out there. Cool. Anything to add, Elton, or?
I feel it is secondary to everything else that's going around it. But it wouldn't be the same movie if you just stripped it out totally. But take the scene in the shack where you have the light from the bullet holes. That could be in any Western. And it's just that they're dodging the light.
Yeah.
So it would still fit in that. But yeah, I think that's why I like it a little bit, because it is the secondary component of this film.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's another point, I guess, because you were quite upfront about the fact you're not
I don't do
a
it.
fan. Yeah.
Mm.
So cool. Okay. Well, yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much for that, Chris. We may do a vampire season at some stage, possibly when Elton's on holiday. Unless maybe we do an Elton's friendly vampire season. What do you reckon?
Elton friendly? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, we can see Kronos.
Yeah,
Vampire film with a difference.
That's a good one.
The Salem original Salem's Lot.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Oh.
I might get my mum to write me a note.
I was gonna say let the right one in, but we've already done that. Or Let Me In, I suppose, is the American reboot, but I don't think we've done that one. We've definitely done the original Nordic one. But that you might like that, actually, Elton.
You did that a long time ago, though, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, if there's an anniversary for it coming up, we might use that as a springboard. But anyway, thank you again, Chris. Do keep sending the feedback in. Sorry about derailing your battleships feedback. We will get back to battleships at some point in the future, just not right now. So just put that file on ice. Right, so let's move on to our next bit of feedback. And Darren, who is that? Darren? Oh, Darren.
Wake up, Darren. It was half hour too long, wasn't it?
Yep. Okay. I'm just going to mark that. He's clearly gone to sleep. Jim.
Well, next we have one of our many scientific experts on board. We have Dr. Scum himself, Mr. Fred Lubno.
Yeah.
And he writes, "Hello, Blackdog crew. Hope all is well. I recently saw Near Dark about a year ago. Remember enjoying it, so this was a welcomed rewatch, particularly after the dung heap pile we had to wade through with the last few weeks with video game-based movies.
Yeah.
Near Dark is very compact, efficiently told story, wasting no time getting to the plot and the characters. Additionally, the movie had a modern or Western fairy tale feel to it. Just enough character development was provided to keep the story going. I think the film can also be seen as an allegory for substance abuse and addiction, and how family will do anything to help those they love who are suffering. Being only the second time seeing this film, I'm impressed about how well written the story is and how easily it flows from scene to scene. Also forgot that Tangerine Dream did the soundtrack for the movie, gave the movie a very creepy 80s vibe. My one criticism is that Sunrise seemed a little too convenient, showing up whenever it was needed, sort of like the Eagles in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. The actors who played the vampire crew were all fantastic. playing it up with enough overacting to keep the story fun in spite of the grim subject matter. While I thought they're all good, Bill Paxton certainly does stand out as a charismatic yet psychotic individual. Ah, yes. And back in the 80s, it was okay to let children smoke on film. And I mean that in more ways than one. I guess it's all right if they were playing a species of the undead. The bar scene was a blast, and did anyone else catch that line? Hey, Jesse, remember that fire we started in Chicago? Yeah. I guess that solves the mystery of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871.
Yeah, I did notice that. I didn't I didn't know the historical context, but I figured there was something in that. That's 1871. There we
go. Nice. Yeah. Catherine Bigelow did an incredible job on this small horror movie. I am sort of disappointed she never made any other horror films. I believe this was Bigelow's first big major movie, and if that was the case, wow, she came out with a punch. Finally, I do want to conclude by saying that, like everyone, I'm very saddened of the death of Bill Paxton. He left us with a great collection of movies and roles, and this one in Near Dark has to be one of his best. Thank you, Blackdog crew, and looking forward to next week's movie.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that, Fred. And as ever, you can find Fred's excellent writings on his lovecraftianscience.wordpress.com blog. There you go. See? I got it. It's in my head now. And, it's... that was good feedback, sir. Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, my brain. God dear. I'm having one of those old man moments. You gotta forgive me. But, I think, it is a compact and efficient film. Definitely. The sunrise being super convenient. That was definitely, especially the bit when Caleb's sister makes a run for the door. It's like they close the door and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning and it's dark, and then they open the door and it's like blazing sunshine at like midday. It was like, wow, that's the Earth just sped up or something, or what the fuck?
But it was quite a good tool as well when he went to the motel keeper, and he wanted the keys, and he could see the light
just edging on the desk.
Yeah. That was so good.
Yeah.
You've been here before, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I come through here about once every 50 years if you want to make me a reservation. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The film is actually incredibly quotable, and it's just one of those things that, I don't know, you find yourself enjoying that side of it as much as the actual story. I mean, I hate it when they ain't been shaved. But anyway, thank you very much for that, Fred. Thank you for the line about Bill Paxton's passing. I do think Near Dark is one of his best because he just gets let off the leash just to have fun. It's very clear that he's having fun with that one. Anyway, thank you again, Dr. Scum, and let's move on. Darren, are you with us now?
I am with you, yes.
Yes, fantastic. And who do you have next, sir?
I have Doreen Kelly, or Keldor, as she's otherwise known.
Keldor the Mighty.
Yeah, Keldor the Mighty. And she writes, "Greetings, Blackdog. Bill Paxton put in a good performance in Near Dark, as did the actor who played Homer. However, I'm conflicted about the rest of the film. First part of my film classification includes the category Mankey. Within Mankey is Jim, and Near Dark, due to the fact that many of the people look so unwashed at the time. Something Anthony finds interesting is the vampire is never mentioned, but this is partly... Oh, sorry, 1 minute. Move that window out of the way. There we go. But this is partly what annoys me about it. I'm the first to admit I am no authority on vampires. It annoyed me that no exchange of blood seemed to be needed. The transformation seemed to start almost instantaneously. And the most annoying of all was the simple fact that the blood transfusion sorted everything out, especially when it worked for the teenage girl who had been conditioned for 4 years, killed and sired. Now, again, as I stated above, I'm not a vampire expert. My only knowledge comes from Buffy and what Mr. Jim says on Hypnagogia. Well, in that case, you're literally as good as an expert then.
Yeah.
Because,
That's quite a range.
That is quite a range.
From Buffy to
that's like going from skateboard to Ferrari. There,
yeah, Buffy to Hypnobobs. That's Hypnogoria. Sorry, it's yeah.
Buffy Bobs. We could call that.
Yeah. Hypno Vampire Slayer. I don't know. Jim the Vampire Slayer.
That's another story.
Yeah.
Another day.
I've got my image. I've got an image in my head of you doing a spin kick now, Jim. With the Buffy the Vampire Slayer theme playing in the background.
Just wait until the shindig. We'll get him to do it.
Excellent. Now, again, as I've stated, I'm not a vampire expert. Blah, 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 blah. And any films I've watched for the Blackdog. So I really don't know why this film should have annoyed me so much. It just did. I didn't like the idea of a child vampire either, but that's for a whole different set of daft, prudish reasons. The one thing I did like was that the vampires did eventually explode and presumably die, no longer exist, in the sun. Bye for now, Keldor the Mighty.
Well, thank you very much for that, Keldor. I mean, going back to May's thing, you know, of being converted back out of a vampire. I mean, Jim brought that up, didn't you? I mean, it's kind of, I don't know.
I can understand Caleb because it's a family blood thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's something else as well. Sorry, go on.
No, go on. You go for it.
I was going to say it's an amazing coincidence that the one thing he tries to save his son, as in just stop him from hungering, actually is the thing that cures him.
Yeah, it's very true.
Because his dad's not a vampire expert. There's not even mentioned about the whole kind of blood thing, really.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. Well, the idea of child vampire is something that's been going on for years. I mean, the most notable one was probably Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, very much so.
With Kirsten Dunst in the film, which came out yonks later after the book. Didn't the book come out in the 70s or something?
79, I think.
Bloody hell, that long ago. So that idea's been kicking around for a bit. I mean, I can understand where you're coming from with that, but it's an old trope in horror. You know, corrupted child. You know, always good for a scare and a disturbing moment of that corruption of innocence, isn't it? I mean, was it?
Yeah.
You know, J horror has been basically cashing in on that for the last 40 years. But anyway, yeah. So thank you very much for that, Keldor. Hopefully hear from you soon. And yes, vampires do explode. And manky, yes, definitely category manky. Because, as we said, it's all dirty and gritty and hot and sweaty. So, thank you very much for that. Right, okay, so moving on to the next bit of written feedback, and that is Elton. Who do you have, sir?
This is from Whispering John.
Whispering John. And what does Whispering John Campion have to say?
The subject is Near Dog.
Hello,
Lee, Darren, Jim, Elton, and Mr. Owl. Near Dark has dated a bit, admittedly. Its synth score, Tangerine Dream no less, is very 80s, and its fashions and attitude locate it squarely in the last century. With that said, though, there's enough here to make a film a worthy rewatch. Some of the imagery is very on the nose. Caleb being fed in the field of oil pumps, for example, but is shot and edited well, and some of it is genuinely striking, still seeming novel now. In the latter category, I'd like to place The Holes in the Darkened Motel Room during the shootout, and I've screwed that up. I'd place The Holes in the Darkened Motel Room during the shootout and the running, burning vampires. Perhaps fittingly for a Paxton rewatch, as a consummate supporting actor, he's outshone, I think, here by Lance Hendrickson, as is everyone else in the film, pretty much. He does turn in the sort of superb supporting performance that lets him own the screen during his scenes. But if we're honest, good as it is, he's no Hudson. There's a theme throughout of predator becoming prey. Caleb coming onto the girl and then becoming the prey, and completely dependent on her until he is unturned. The lad from the bar leading the police to the pack, and then the vampire turning the tables on the police. It's interesting to note that the assured film is. Well, it's interesting to note that this assured film is Catherine Bigelow's first directing credit. She also co-wrote the script. If the film has a weakness, I think it's the protagonist who fades into the background of the film when he isn't advancing the plot. The interest is very much with the vampires and their dynamic, and particularly Jesse. The fact that Hendrickson and Paxton and Goldstein came from this movie after shooting Aliens together might be why their bond as the vampire pack seems so believable. Anyway, definitely retaining its rose-tinted status for me, despite minor flaws. Pip, pip, Whispering John.
Thank you very much for that, sir. Good feedback. Well done, Elton.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's right, you did well. Did all right, mate.
I totally get that because on Aliens they had all that build-up, didn't they? They had the weeks away to bond together, didn't they?
That's right. They had that marine training course, didn't they?
Yeah, and so that would totally, coming straight from there to this, you'd still have that bond.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, it was they were kind of handed off straight after filming Aliens, weren't they? So yeah, it comes through and it does show, and I think it's to the film's benefit, really, because I think a totally different cast would have made that film crap. I think that film does, as I said before, I think it does live or die on the quality of the cast and the chemistry that they have themselves. Yeah, and as we've said already, Catherine Bigelow's first directing debut, well done, superb. One thing John brings up though is Caleb coming onto the girl and becoming prey. He is a bit, slimy at the beginning, isn't he? And it's kind of hard to sympathise with him at first, and the situation he finds himself in, because he's a bit of a
He is slimy, but not as slimy as we've seen in 80s movies.
Well, admittedly, no. He's not quite up there with
It could have been worse.
Yeah, it was acceptable in the 80s.
Well, you'd expect him trying to cop a feel or send his tongue down her throat at some point in the van.
In an 80s movie, yeah.
They really don't push that.
No, which is kind of cool, because I think if they did, I think everyone's sympathy would have been off him in a matter of seconds. Yeah.
And I think that's why she... I think if he'd really come onto her strong, then she might have just bitten him, drained him, and fucked off. But I think because he didn't, that's the reason why she left him and he was allowed to turn.
Yeah, I can see that. I just found it interesting that watching it this time round, again, it's one of those things, looking back on it with a different pair of eyes and a different perspective. You see these kind of 80s movies and you go, oof, blimey, really? Really? If a hero did that now in a modern day film, he'd be like, no, he'd be the villain. Right from the off. It's like, you creepy, dirty git. Get out of it. You're getting everything you got. You're going to get everything you deserve, mate. So anyway, yeah. So thank you very much for that, John. Whispering John. And let's move on. Thank you, sir, for the feedback. And we shall move on to the next bit of written feedback. The last bit of written feedback, actually, which is Murray the Pieman Christensen. And he writes, "Hi, guys. This is actually my third attempt at feedback. No technical issues, of just having some trouble getting my head around what I've just seen. First, I'm surprised I haven't seen this film before. I don't know if you remember back in the 90s, before News 24 or whatever party casino guff they used to have on ITV these days, both channels would fill late night schedule space with cheap movies from the 80s. This looks like it would have happily filled that space. Still, wasn't sure what to expect. What surprised me about this film was that for a vampire movie, how little it actually needed vampires for the first 2/3 of the film. If you find a different reason for Caleb to hook up with the vamps, this could have actually been a film about a bloke who falls in with a group of serial killers cutting a bloody sway through Texas. I'm not saying vampire element doesn't add something, it just thought it was interesting to think about. In fact, they got brought up earlier as well, didn't it? The main vamps are well realised. Paxton does very well with the out-and-out crazy guy. Henriksen just radiates menace, and with the addition of Diamondback, they become a pretty terrifying duo. There are some standout scenes as well, my personal favourite being the shootout in the motel. The thing is, I'm still not sure I actually enjoyed it. It is odd when I think about the scenes and the characters. It all works, but watching the whole thing, it didn't. Part of the issue was that I never warmed to Caleb. He lacked the character, and I just didn't care what happened to him. Of course, it could have been like watching... It could have been just watching it on a phone screen with an iffy hotel Wi-Fi, or maybe just after DOA and Mortal Kombat I needed to decompress slowly towards a higher quality of film. Perhaps I needed to go through The Last Action Hero before approaching anything new. So one I will give a second chance, but it is currently in the confused pile for me. As always, keep up the good work. Murray, the Pie Man Christensen. Well, thank you very much for that, Murray. So we got a kind of unsure, not nearly the sum of its own parts from the sound of it, from Murray there. I don't know what to say about that. I can see it. I can see it with like Caleb not being the most approachable hero, but yeah. Okay, well never mind. Anyway, thank you very much for that, Murray. Good feedback, sir, and maybe speak to you very soon. Right, so it's time to get on to our MP3 feedback. And our first bit of MP3 feedback is from Greg Madden, Mr. Worf, up on the USS Blackdog. So let's hear what he has to say about Near Dark.
Hello, Blackdoggers and Mr. Al. This is Mr. Worf, Greg Madden, and I am here to give you my feedback on Near Dark, and pay tribute to Mr. Bill Paxton. Now, before this was put on the roster, I never heard of this show. Maybe because I was 14 when it came out, one of those wonderful 80 movies. Not sure, but really we're here to pay tribute to the man, not necessarily the show. And to me, Mr. Bill Paxton, some of his most memorable roles were in Apollo 13, Tombstone, and let's not forget Aliens. But I believe he starred in almost 100 TV and movie shows and programs over his career. A wonderful career that stretched quite a bit, and he will be missed because no matter how little his role was in the show, it was always rememberable, and you could always pick him out as soon as he got on the screen, even if it was just his voice. Now, to get to the movie, I'm not going to roast it like I would normally do, because this show is obviously not the best show, and it is, I'll be honest, fairly poor. I was not a fan of it. Of course, I'm not a fan of too many vampire movies. To me, this show was kind of like The Lost Boys, kind of gave me a strong vibe of that. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to think of Mr. Paxton and say that he will truly be missed. And I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to keep it short this week. So I wish everybody a good week to come from the security post of the USS Blackdog. So everyone, cheers. Mr. Paxton, you'll be missed.
Thank you very much for that, Greg. Yeah, well, there you go. Short, sweet, and to the point. And yes, Mr. Paxton will indeed be missed. And my microphone's now fallen over. That's great. Good work, microphone. Just when I needed you most. Thank you, Greg. So he wasn't taken with that at all, by the sound of it. Yeah. Well, you know, vampire movies aren't for you. I mean, as we found with Elton, if the vampires movies are not for you, then they're not for you. And
yeah, that's right.
And that's understandable entirely. If someone turns around and says to me that vampire movies are boring and dull, or they're just not something that they're into, I'm not likely to sit there and go, no, you are wrong, because frankly they are a bit polarizing, and especially if you get the formula for them, you sort of once you work it out, it's kind of like I find they kind of go a bit wonky for me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like if you don't like sci-fi or fantasy, I think it's just another one of them niches.
Yeah.
If you like it, you like
floats
it.
your boat, isn't it? Really?
Well, exactly.
Mm.
So instead, he took the classy route of basically just paying tribute to Bill Paxton, which was the whole point of this thing in the first place. So thank you very much. That's much appreciated. And I agree, he will be missed.
Definitely.
Right, okay, so let's move on to our next bit of feedback. Now, our next bit of feedback is from Will and Zarish. I will be honest with you, it is a long bit of feedback. It's about 9 minutes long. I was given the heads up by Will and Zarish that this would be the case, and it's, as far as I can tell, it's because Will does his feedback and then Zarish does hers. So essentially, it's actually 2 bits of feedback in one. Normally don't normally let long feedback in, but I did listen to this. They did give me the heads up, and there is stuff to discuss in there. So it's not like it's just like they're saying the same things over and over again. So do take a listen to Will, Fiendish Dr. Will and Zarish as they talk about Near Dark.
Good evening, Blackdog.
Hello.
So I was first introduced to Near Dark by my brother many years ago, and I really enjoyed it, although it was a very long time till I saw it again. But that final scene of Homer chasing after May and Sarah always stuck with me, that scene of him running down the road. I always thought that was a really great scene. Watching it again, which was about 5 years ago, and then again last night, reminded me that there is much more to like about it that I had forgotten about. For me, I really love the look of it and the sound of it. I was very impressed by the use of light and dark, watching Caleb's shadow as he staggers back to May, the bright smoke-filled interior of the sheriff's office, the backlit silhouettes and the shining through Diamondback's very 80s feathered hair, and the awesome makeup. The makeup was great. It was particularly Bill Paxton after exposure to sunlight. I thought that all worked really well. Story-wise, I appreciated the fact that it was kept very simple. There was basically no exposition, very minimal backstories. They never said the word vampire in the film, but you knew everything you needed to know about this particular type of vampire and what made them tick. So you knew that they were old, they were strong, sunlight killed them, and they just didn't refer to kind of anything about sort of undeath or mirrors or holy water, legendary vampire killers or something. It wasn't relevant to this story, and so it was left out. And that was good for me. I liked that. Even the sense of time throughout it was quite vague. I mean, this whole story could have been 3 days, it could have been 3 weeks. It didn't really affect the story whichever way it was. So yeah, I do love this film, which does make it sad when I have to mention some of the serious flaws in it, because sadly there are some. And for me, that's the fact that in trying to keep the story simple, they did make some of it very ridiculous. So the fact that Caleb turned and started smoking from sunlight within minutes of being bitten, just way, way too fast. It always bothers me in vampire stories when they have to eat kind of every night or every other night or however long it is. Even with all this constant travelling, I think someone somewhere would have put together the trail of stolen vehicles and missing people and burnt out corpses as they blaze a path of destruction across the country.
They were kind of lighting a trail of torches.
Yeah, I mean, you can't keep that hidden for long. But really, I mean, there is one thing which really almost ruins the film for me, and that's the
transfusion. The
ridiculousness of curing it by a transfusion. I mean, it was only a tiny transfusion. I mean, it can't be more than a pint or two, given it was one night, and it was not like the guy giving the blood had to stop and lie down for a while. He was there tending all night. And it's the fact that even May, who'd been a vampire for 4 years, could still be cured by a small transfusion, which means if it's that easy for some hick farm boy to work out a cure for vampirism, then why has no one else worked it out?
Hick farm boy.
This basically means they have chosen to stay like this.
That's a rap, you realise. That's a rap name now.
The Hick Farm Boy.
Hick
Yes.
Farm Boy,
Yeah. Well, it's basically Luke Skywalker. So, I mean, it means Homer, despite all his complaining about not growing up, has chosen to stay like that.
No, just didn't think of it.
So, I mean, I think
that was particularly stupid.
yeah. If I can ignore that bit, and I think that might be why I don't watch it more often than I do, I really enjoy the film.
Yeah, because it's made to look so easy, isn't it? There's this kind of a lead into this. Whoopee! We're just all back to normal. And it's an unachievable happy ending if you look at any other kind of vampire film, although I appreciate that she was trying to do the revisionist thing. But I did not love it yesterday, I must admit. I watched it, and the whole way through I was just thinking, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? And then there were moments of brilliance, and I am with you on some of the lighting, like when Caleb is riding the horse towards the camera and there's the smoke and everything. And I really liked the smoke. I didn't like the fact that he was smoking so soon after being bitten, but when he's running across the field, the smoke was coming out. And I was just thinking, that looks like cigarette smoke. It didn't look like canister smoke.
Yeah.
And it's kind of pre that effect. Well, today I went and watched the documentary.
Okay.
And I must admit that when I left the film last night, I was seriously unimpressed.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I kind of went back over it in my head and I was thinking about it. And I was thinking, no, I do get what you mean about the beauty of it in terms of the light and all of that kind of thing. And then I watched the documentary, and funnily enough, I felt much more fondly towards it after watching Catherine Bigelow and the producers and the director of photography, and the actors talking about it than I did last night.
Interesting.
But I don't think that's a plus. You know, in a way, if you have to go and watch a documentary to feel sympathetic or friendly towards a film, it's kind of failed in its objective, because you shouldn't have to read, research material to understand the thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a failing, but there's a little bit of me that thinks that I might watch it again now because I know all of the other stuff.
Okay.
So Lance and Bill had these massive backstories that they had made up. And they had got up to all sorts of hijinks, like they got pulled over by a policeman, and Lance scared the living shit out of this policeman by basically looking like he was going to eat him.
Nice.
And they were still in full makeup and everything. And he was writing the ticket because they'd been speeding. And when he looked up from the paper, Lance was looking at him like he was a meal. And it was so awful, he took a step back and put his hand on his gun. He didn't pull it. And Bill was just like, would you knock it off? The car! And I just thought, when I know things like that, and I know the lengths that Lance went to with sewing the Confederate flag inside his coat and dipping the end of his plait in tar, things like that I can really get into. But I could have done with knowing that in the film.
Yeah, I do
Little
get that.
nods to that, like, oh, we're going to have to read you the tar on your cue.
And I've noticed the ponytail thing that he had, but
very sort of 17th century. But it, that kind of thing is important to me within the film, and there wasn't any of that. There was a bit towards the end of it last night when we were watching, and I was just thinking, this is just Twilight without a washing machine. And then when you were reading about it afterwards, and you said they were going to do a remake, and they decided they couldn't because it was too similar to Twilight, I was just in hysterics.
that did amuse me.
It was just like, because it kind of stacks up. There's the parents, there's the bad boy, there's the good boy, there's the young one. And I also felt some of the ideas were stolen, like that Anne Rice's interview with a vampire has the little vampire in it, Claudia. And she's 6 or 7.
Yeah, same sort of idea.
Yeah.
There.
That was another hole in the plot, actually. I don't know if you picked up on this, but Homer, he was turned in the 50s, I think, according to Catherine Bigelow in the documentary. So if this is set in the 80s, he's been a vampire for 30-something years, and Sarah is apparently the first 7 or 8-year-old female he's found on her own in that time, and he is suddenly so desperate to turn her. And I'm just thinking, he could have picked off any homeless child. And America is oozing with homeless children. It just seemed a little bit like they could have tied that one up better.
Yeah. And they did make the point that he had got May for himself, and it was her going off with Khaled that
Yeah,
made
but she
him
was
want to
in
do
her
it.
20s.
But yeah, you'd have thought he'd have got somebody.
This is
different.
America. There are a shit ton of people in America. There
Yeah.
were in the 80s. And you can't tell me that was the first 7 or 8 year old he found on her own in the dark.
Mm.
They only had to spend 10 minutes in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And then they'd have found a child. So, yeah, that was a little bit of a stretch. There were lots of stretches. But, frankly, if that is a debut film for her directing director's credits, then, yeah, pretty good.
Cool.
Long feedback. Sorry, Lee.
Sorry about that, but thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much for that. And like I say, don't worry about the feedback. It was long, but there was 2 of you, and it had a clear second half. The second half was the Zarish half more than, and Will's half was the first half. So get through on a technicality. There you go. Anyway, so thank you very much for that, Zarish. Thank you for that, Dr. Will. Yeah, how Homer has managed to avoid other 8-year-old children in the past 40 years is kind of an interesting one, I guess.
But then again, it's one of those things. Is kind of there might have been others who didn't work out.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, you know,
my reading was it was very much because May had got this new fella. And he'd proved himself and been accepted, and that's when he decided he wanted a new playmate.
Yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense. It's that whole thing of, she got a playmate. Can I have one now? I guess because the thing is, because you kind of get that sense at the beginning of the film that they don't want any more hangers on.
Yeah, they've got their family unit, as it were, and that's it.
Yeah, so it's only when they realised that Caleb's been bit. Otherwise, their plan was basically just to kill him off and leave him dead in the desert. I guess. So yeah, and so she kind of broke the rules and brought in a stranger to the family unit. I guess look at it that way. Yeah, I mean, again, bringing up the point about the about the blood transfusions. Yeah, I think that's definitely a sticking point. I have to say, I do agree with Zarish on the point that if you have to watch the documentary and ancillary materials, that's always been a bugbear. I think I've brought it up on the cast a few times. If you need to watch the other stuff to enjoy the film, then the film hasn't really done its job. My favourite of that, and I often mention it here, I'm sure, is the Battlestar Galactica thing of watching it saying, oh, there's plot holes, and then everyone going, yeah, but if you listen to the Ron Moore podcast, he explains this all perfectly. It's like, no, I don't want to.
You should have put it in the goddamn script.
Yeah, put it on the fucking screen, and then I'll take notice. I'm not going to listen to a podcast about a show that is slowly winding me up. Just to get the answers, which should have been on the fucking screen because he's had time to think about them.
So on the flip side, though, from what Zarish was saying, is something that it's an experience I've had is when you actually started to know a bit more about the making of the film, and particularly a film like this where it was really scraped together. You know what I mean? And then you begin to, well, actually, I'll cut them a bit more slack and think it a bit more over. And particularly a film like this that she does so well with so little.
Yeah.
That it's not readily apparent she was actually, let's say, struggling for resources and, going through all those battles, you do when you're trying to you make your first film with no money and no help and no one believes in you. And then, when you realize what went into making the film, you go, oh, actually, I will rethink that actually because, I appreciate what they went through to make that. Which is a similar thing, but also slightly on the flip side, if you know what I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
Where you can sort of go, oh, all right, fair enough. I appreciate the effort that went in.
Yeah, I get.
I mean, I do take the point. I mean, I said I felt this was a slighter film than I remember it, and I'd love to say have more of those character details and stuff that worked out kind of found its way into the film. But at the same time, I appreciate they only had so much money and so much time to do this. And, they probably would have liked to put it in, I imagine. Because, I mean, directors love that when actors really get into the roles and bring that stuff to the table. But low-budget filmmaking is you've got a tight schedule, and so, literally, you're measuring the footage that's going through the gate before it runs out.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, I do take the point. I mean, it is one of those things. If you do understand the film and you've got some admiration for it, it will change your perspective. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of conflicted on it because, like I say, when you hear things, when you like I obsessed about Blade Runner and read all the books about making of it, and that the extra bit of shit that they went through to make it, and you sort of go, oh, well, actually, that makes everything that much cooler for knowing that. But also, you can't turn around to someone who doesn't like Blade Runner and say, well, read this book and read this book and read that book. And then if you read the Paul Salmon sort of future noir, you really will get an understanding of why this is such a cool film. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work. But it also, you kind of go, actually, yeah, it does help. It's kind of a weird, I don't know, it's kind of a weird sort of paradox, isn't it, really? Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Will. Thank you very much for that, Zarish. Yeah, I'll be interested to hear what Zarish thinks of it after seeing it for a second time. Now that she's got her little, that sounds really patronising. Now that she's got her backstory to the film and watches it again. Yeah. So let's move on. Thanks very much for that, guys. And yeah. No doubt hear from you very soon. Right, so next bit of feedback and the last bit of MP3 feedback is from Drew and Tracy. So let's hear what they thought of Near Dark.
So that was Near Dark.
Yeah.
A tribute to Bill Paxton.
Yeah, I think it was all right, actually. It's not the best film I've ever seen. We both kind of thought that we'd seen this before, like, a long time ago, didn't we?
Yeah, there's definitely bits of it I remember, but I can't remember the whole lot of it.
No, I think it's so long ago, we've just forgotten it all.
To be fair, if I remembered the film, I would never fucking watched it again.
You really didn't like it?
Yeah, no, it was not Near Dark for me. This was Near Miss. I really didn't enjoy this.
I didn't mind it at all. I like the 80s-ness. I like the Tangerine Dream soundtrack.
You
yeah, it's very
that,
good. Yeah, great stuff.
But you say you liked the 80s-ness of it. What I think what was bugging me is that this was after Lost Boys, Aliens. Caleb was in Top Gun, so it was like the latter part of the 80s. But it felt the most dated of all of those films.
Dated,
I know there is supposed to be something quite dark and mysterious about vampire films and stuff like that, but to me this just felt really dated and old.
I think it's because it's a bit of a cheaper production, isn't it? Is the trouble with this.
So for me, right, I couldn't quite get this.
Okay.
So he meets this girl.
Yeah.
She's a bit totty. He wants to get there. So he wants a snog.
Yeah.
Gets bitten.
Yeah.
Right. And then goes through what is looks like pure agony.
Yep.
She gives him some blood, right?
Yep.
Then he's euphoric. And at no point does he question, what the fuck have you done to me? You've turned me into a nightcrawler, right? He just goes with the flow and yet falls in love with this woman. You would be like, hang on a minute. Let me just bleed you dry now because you've done this to me. I need to live. I'm in agony. I didn't get it. It just didn't work for me. I really didn't get it. This was just
like the theory behind it was a bit strange, wasn't it? Like how you could give someone a blood transfusion and turn them back into human.
Yeah, exactly. And then the ending was just a bit soft. You knew that was coming. That was daft. They should have just done that in the beginning. And to be fair, that kind of had too much leanings towards The Walking Dead for me. Oh, the vet saves the humans in the end.
Maybe.
Like that. Maybe I've just been watching too much Walking Dead. I get the cult nature of this film.
Yeah.
Right, because everyone talks about it all the time. But for me, this is not one of Bill Paxton's best. It's not an 80s vampire film at its best at all. as far as I'm concerned.
I think it is. I think it's 80s
You really do?
vampire
You
film,
think
yeah.
this is better than Lost Boys? No fucking way. Sorry,
I
I
don't mind
challenge you
Lost
to the
Boys.
death on that one. No way. And this was done after Lost Boys. You know, you'd think they'd learnt by then.
Well, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was all right. I thought it was a good review to go back to an 80s classic, and it was good.
I just think for a book... All right, George. For a Bill Paxton memorial film, they could have picked something better.
Fair
if I'm
enough.
honest. Yeah, didn't work for me.
Well, it worked for me.
Well, happy days.
Yep.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, well, I can see a Lost Boys episode being an interesting one.
I quite agree with George's feedback as well.
George's?
The cat.
Yeah, I think he and Mr. Owl will have interesting conversations at the shindig. Shut up, Owl.
There'll be an epic battle with swords and lightning.
George versus Owl. The battle, bird versus feline. Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose. Yeah, I think this is infinitely better than Lost Boys. What about you, Jim? Or should I not draw you into this one?
It's been a while since I've seen Lost Boys. I understand why people like Lost Boys. I know it's one of those films that was like a seminal sort of movie for people growing up.
Yeah.
I get behind the fact that kind of you could have the argument that kind of, well, Lost Boys does the full vampire thing of holy water, crosses, flying, whereas this is maybe, shortchanging you by doing sort of revisionist vampires. And, if that's not, what you want from a vampire movie, I can understand that the same way as, I remember people, absolutely hating Blade Runner when it first came out because it wasn't Raiders of the Lost Android. So it's all a matter of, it's partly, what you expect from a certain genre film. And, films like this that are playing with the genre don't always go down well with people.
Yeah.
I know what she means about the love story. I mean, I think kind of that happy ending, that never sat right for me. And I could see, that'd be the last straw for some viewers. Like, oh, fuck off. So, I can see both sides on this one. I mean, I think it is very of its time. And it has been sort of quietly quite influential. So we've seen people pick up bits from Near Dark and do it, differently. Maybe some people say better, in later things that have come out, after. But, at the time it was quite a breath of fresh air. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't dig Lost Boys simply because I find if you're talking about sort of being 80s, I mean, seriously, it is as 80s as 80s could be. It's like Tina Turner pop video for Pepsi. I mean, Lost Boys is just really not my thing at all. But each to their own, I guess. That's fine. And I'm sure this whole podcast will be in reverse when we do Lost Boys, because I'm now getting a sneaky suspicion that we might have to. So yeah, no, I think it's better than Lost Boys, but then, like I say, opinions are available. So thank you very much for that, guys. Yeah, sorry you didn't like it quite as much, Tracy, but there you go. They're happy days, as you say. And yeah, hi to George the cat. Right. Well, that's it. That's it for the feedback. Thank you to everyone who's written in. Everyone who's done the MP3s. All appreciated, one and all. And yeah, it's time for us just to tell you what film we're going to be doing next. Next week, we are going to be doing an M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong movie. Yeah, this one I think is arguably one of his last good ones. Make of that what you will. And we won't spoil it, because if you've never seen it before, I often like to hear from people who have not seen this before, just simply because, twists and that kind of thing always work out better. So it is Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson in Unbreakable. Now, have you guys seen this before? Darren's obviously wandered off. It's late night. He has to go to bed. But have you guys seen Unbreakable?
Oh, yes.
Cool. And Elton?
Yeah, I have. But it's been so long. I think I watched it as it came out on maybe DVD. I don't know.
Yeah.
When was this? 96, 97?
I think so. Let me check. He says, Mr. looks up something on internet. Hold on. Unbreakable. Yeah, the movie Unbreakable, 2000s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 16 years ago.
Right. It would have been on DVD that I'd seen it then.
Okay. So,
I enjoyed it, but I cannot tell you a single stroke about it whatsoever. So it's going to be me watching it for the first time again, shall we say?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. And Jim, what did you think about it before?
I really liked it. First time I saw it, and I watched it actually fairly recently, last couple of years, and I think it was the third time I've seen it. I enjoyed it again. I think it's, it's not a spoiler to say it's an M. Night film, so there's a twist.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those. It's got some brilliant performances, and it's just a really well crafted, well told movie that it survives knowing the twist, if you know what I mean. But I'll see how it goes this time I watch it. So
fair enough. Cool. I know Darren's seen it, but I don't know I can't remember what he thought about it, but we'll find out next week. I remember seeing this, and this was I think this was his last, for me, this was Shyamalan's last totally, unequivocally sort of solid movie.
His second one.
Yeah, his second one. I was going to say I love Signs, but I also understand it. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and there are the sort of like, why would you land on the planet of water arguments, and I don't think you quite get that from this movie, from Unbreakable. So I guess it's a lot more successful in that respect. So, so if you would like to send in feedback, send it into feedback@blackdogpodcast.com. The blackdogpodcast.com website will be up soon enough, but obviously follow us on our new feed, which is podcast.blackdogpodcast.com. And, that's it, really. Send in your feedback to feedback@blackdogpodcast.com. Now, before we go, Jim, Elton, sell your wares, gentlemen.
Go for it, Elton.
Okie dokie. You can catch me on shonkylab.com, where I will be talking about, what will I be talking about this week? Gigs. Now, the Mixler isn't working. They've pulled Mixler off of XP computers. I've got a crappy old laptop that runs XP just for Mixler. It's my Mixler computer. So I can't do live shows at the moment, which is fucking annoying. But yeah, it's one of them things. So look out for that podcast. It's going to be about gigs. We tried to do it at the very beginning of Shonky Lab, and we lost that episode. So I'm trying to re-bring it back again.
Right.
So that'll be out very soon-ish. Also, me and Andy Plastides, we were talking about Band of Brothers. Part 3 will be out this weekend. We'll be talking about Quarantine. And the Grand Prix podcast was dropped last night as well. Although to one listener's disappointment, who's actually left and not listening anymore because we swear, even though it's rated as explicit.
Yeah.
Yeah, work that one out.
So they got upset because you swore.
Because we swears.
Why? What did they actually say that specifically? Did they send you an email?
It's on. We got a Grand Prix podcast Facebook group.
Yeah.
It's just a tiny little thing. It's just me and Andy posting every now and again, just to keep things alive, really, and not expecting things to happen. And some chap came along and said, "Okay, right, that's it. I'm not having any more. You guys swear too much. Goodbye." Right?
Oh, nice.
Okay, even though it's rated explicit.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So you're missing him? Is he a bit of a loss?
No, he's probably still listening. He's probably one of them people that still listens.
Well, of course he is. You know, anyone who does that, they go, "I'm listening, I'm leaving," and then they'll come back to hear if you say anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear two idiots swearing about Formula One, listen to us.
Yay! Round and round and round you go.
Exactly.
Lovely. Okie dokie. Right, and Jim.
Yes, you can hear me on my own show where I'm just kicking off probably a month of shows on the history of the zombie, in fact, and in fiction.
Yeah.
And you can find that on iTunes and Geek Planet Online and Stitcher and other places as well.
Excellent. Right. Well, there you go. So thank you very much, Jim. Thank you very much, Elton. And thank you to everyone sending in feedback. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And, leave us a nice little comment review on the old iTunes there if you can.
Do it.
You ask nicely, Elton, and you get nicely. Don't demand. And you can also
Please do it.
Shut up. And you can also join us on the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/the Blackdog Podcast. And of course, follow me on Twitter at Blackdog Podcast, though I tweet probably once in a blue moon. But you never know. Occasionally a news story comes up and I go, ooh, and then retweet. So, keep in contact, and we shall see you all next week for Unbreakable. Until then, take care. Tatty bye.
Bye-bye.
Ta-da.
Oh, bollocks to it.